Hello, audience. Welcome back to the Human Paradox podcast, the show that is very rapidly becoming a wrestling podcast, seeing as I believe that we've now done over half our episodes about it, this one being one of them. If our voices during this episode sound at all not like our usual voices, that's because less than 24 hours ago we just got back from a live wrestling show and we were screaming our damn heads off. But I think it's safe to say that my voice is a little bit worse than yours, Ben. Would you say?
Yeah, a little bit.
Like both of our voices are pretty bad right now, but I was screaming a little bit harder than you were. So
Yeah, so Aaron's just like naturally louder than me.
yeah,
I'm loud when I need to be, like for my job. I can yell, but he's just naturally loud.
I can't turn it off, guys.
Yeah, he's very. It's not nasally. What's the right word to describe?
Nasally.
Like when you talk, you just like this is your normal talking volume, whereas mine's like down here.
I project a lot.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know. No, I've been told that my whole life that I'm very loud, and to that I always say the same thing. I don't
Just go with it, man.
Well, like I don't hear it. I don't know. If you ever listen to Bill Burr, the comedian, he does a stand-up routine on that where his girlfriend tells him, "Stop yelling. Why are you yelling?" And he says, "I don't think I'm yelling. Like, I never feel like I'm yelling. It's just that I'm very passionate about what I'm talking about, and I want to make sure that you hear every single word of it. And I don't hear myself as yelling, but that's the boat that I feel in. But regardless, today will be a different case because this is about as loud as I'm gonna go today.
Yeah. So today's episode is, we're gonna divide it in half, talking about two different things. So, the wrestling show that we went to, was a WWE house show in Syracuse last night, and
It was called the Sunday Stunner.
it was called the Sunday Stunner, just like a normal WWE live event.
Yeah.
And the first topic of this video or of this podcast is going to be house shows versus like your regularly scheduled Monday Night Raw, SmackDown / pay-per-view levels of shows.
Yeah.
Because I think both of us went in with certain expectations and were completely like blown away.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the episode is going to be me giving a list of my current hot takes in wrestling, and Aaron kind of reacting to them.
Yeah, he for the reason being that he texted me giving that idea, and I had just woken up and I was like, sure, let's do it, and I didn't have time to think of any. But to be fair, I wouldn't have thought of that many anyways, so we're just gonna roll with it.
Well, it's just like funny because like Polana always has like a weekly or monthly episode that he puts out that's like hot takes where he gets a whole bunch of his fans come in.
Yeah, that's because Polana has nothing worth saying on his regular channel, so he needs other people to give him content.
Yeah, so I think it'd be fun to just hear Aaron react to my hot takes because he constantly uploads them to Polana's. There was one video where he did like 5 of your hot takes.
Yeah, it's because I'm not a normie, and I actually I when it comes to Polana and his hot takes community posts, I go out of my way to shit post and to just upload nonsense that no one else is saying.
Yeah.
Because it sticks out like a sore thumb among the midst of, oh, I think that the New Day is the greatest tag team ever. It's like, good for you. That's not a fucking hot take, right? You want to hear a hot take, bam, and then I drop 15 outlandish statements, and then I leave. And then what do you know? A few of them get picked because they're different.
So let's just kick this up a little bit. You said something to me a while ago that I kind of disagreed with you at the start of it, but now in hindsight, I fully agree with you. And what he said is, I don't think you and I are wrestling fans. We just love wrestling. And at first I was like,
I'm pretty sure that we talked about that like 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, I don't know if we talked about it on an episode or not, but
I remember it.
But it really opened my eyes last night to seeing how WWE fans act compared to you and I would. I don't even say we would be like the hardcore fans. We just love professional wrestling. We watch as much as we can.
Well, how would you define a hardcore fan?
So like hardcore. Well, so there's the WWE fan, the TNA fan, the AEW fan, the New Japan fan, and then you have hardcore fans of each of those companies. So
you have to be loyal to.
I would liken it to this, right? So you have your standard Dallas Cowboys fan who just they wear their t-shirts, they like the Dallas Cowboys, but they can't name a single player on the team. Then you have the hardcore Dallas Cowboys fans who, and I hate the Cowboys, but I'm just using it as an example because it's the biggest brand in the NFL.
Yeah.
You have the hardcore Dallas Cowboys fans that know all of the players. They know who's on like the injured reserve list. They know everything about their team. And then you have the people who are just a huge fan of the NFL,
and they'll watch any game because they love the sport.
You have people who love the NFL, and then you have people who just love football. So they love college football, pro football, arena football, like everything.
And that was what I had in mind originally when I told you that. So
yeah,
it's cool to see that you now agree with me because you and me can sit down and watch any show, and like I've said it to you before. I might have said it on the podcast before. I'll continue to say it. I hold no allegiance to any one company. If the day ever comes where I ever go to an AEW show, I will join in the crowd. I will be as loud as the rest of them. But if they ever do a fucking AEW chant,
they will. But yeah.
I will refuse to join in because I'm not there to fucking cheer for the company. I'm there to cheer for the wrestlers and what they're doing. And cheering for the company is a slap to the face to those wrestlers. Like every time that I hear that, all that I hear is just, yeah, we're better than the other guys. We're better than the other guys. And I'm like, I'm sorry, Are we not here to watch a wrestling show? I didn't realize that this was a dick measuring competition over who can get better ratings.
So I told you before that I listened to a Cody Rhodes podcast today where he had an interview with Ryan Satin. It's on YouTube. It's the Out of Character podcast. I think they just went live and they uploaded it today, right? Yeah. And he said something that really blew me away and put a lot of things into perspective in terms of WWE, and he compared it to Star Wars.
Really?
So he said, like, the Star Wars fan base is very toxic, and you have people who just watch it and they love Star Wars, they just love the movies, they just watch everything because they like Star Wars. And you have people who are very opinionated that, like, oh, the prequels are terrible, but the sequels are great, or the prequels are awesome and the sequels suck. But everybody unanimously agrees that the original trilogy is awesome. And then he compared it to professional wrestling. He said the AEW fan base was much more focused on like proving everybody wrong, that this little startup company can succeed and we will give you professional wrestling. And they were very what's the right word?
Normie.
Not anti-normie, but just anti-establishment, like we're going to do things differently than WWE, which was good because they wanted to be an alternative. But they focused a lot of their programming to be, we're going to take cheap shots at WWE anytime we can. I don't think there's been a single episode where someone hasn't taken some sort of cheap shot at WWE. It might have happened. But
you've seen more episodes than I have, so I'll take your word for that.
But Cody said something. He said the main focus of WWE is they're not trying to win over the hardcore fans because the hardcore fans are going to watch anyway.
Yeah.
And they'll complain. WWE is much more dedicated and focused on, I wrote it down. He said WWE focuses more on pleasing their fans that love the product more than proving the hardcore audience wrong. And you have to respect that. So, and that was really apparent to me last night. Obviously, it was a house show. It wasn't televised. But I would say the average fan that was there would be the person who was like, oh, well, they watch Raw like every other week. There were a couple fans of, like, hardcore fans of specific wrestlers, and we'll get to her.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll get to her. But the vast majority of the audience was just happy to be there. They loved everything. They were just having a good time. And it was awesome to see. And it put a lot of things into perspective that WWE isn't worried about your JDs of the world or us because we're going to watch anyway. Yeah. They're worried about the mainstream audience and just you go to WWE shows to have a good time. And I don't think there was a single person that was there that was miserable. And honestly,
maybe that girl was in the moment.
And honestly, we can sit back and we can watch Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown and any pay-per-view and have our interpretation of what the general, atmosphere is there in the arena. But actually being there in person, I feel like I don't think there's I feel like if we would have went to Raw last week in person, or if we would go to Raw in Buffalo tonight, the show would be more or less the same as it was last week, which is, you and I would say, not a very good show, but we would have a total blast being there. And that's what they're focused on.
Wrestling to me is a lot like baseball in the sense that, like, a lot of people find baseball very boring to watch on TV, or not a lot of people find baseball boring, and a lot of people find Raw and SmackDown very boring right now on TV because you have that layer of separation. You're watching it on a TV from your home with commercials and a different camera angle. You're not there, so it's a lot easier to spot things that maybe aren't good, right? Like, I thought that promo from Ronda was bad, you know? I thought that there was a botch in that match. It's a lot easier to spot it. What? But when you're sitting there watching a match in person, like none of that matters. I would also say I did not analyze a single match. I was too busy cheering for the babyface, booing the heel, starting chants. I was too busy having fun being there watching the match to give a shit about anything critical.
Yeah, and I would say the average fan, because the average fan is like a child or the child's parent that's not like hardcore into wrestling. Like, they're not going to sit there and be like, oh, Ronda Rousey's cringe. They're not going to say that kind of stuff because they don't know. They're not the ones that are getting on after Raw and watching a podcast.
I'm pretty sure that I said one time, Becky cringe is like a joke, but like I didn't give a shit, you know? We just said during the match.
So I would encourage anybody who's never been to a live wrestling event, instead of waiting until like SmackDown or Raw or anything like that comes into your city, go to a house show. Because A, the tickets are going to be cheaper. B, they're in smaller arenas, so you're up close. And C, the atmosphere is just so much fun.
Roman even, we'll get to that later.
We'll break down the card and everything that happened.
The atmosphere was so high that for the closeout of the show, Roman like personally acknowledged us and just how high that the whole arena's energy was, and it was really cool.
Yeah, and it was. This is like a. Have you ever been to like a really big hockey arena?
Yes, I've been to the Coyote Stadium.
So the only hockey arenas that I've been to, like the Giant Center in Hershey.
Yeah.
And they're not an NHL team. They're like, I think it's AHL.
Yeah, no.
This is like a minor league hockey arena that we were in.
Growing up in Tucson, Arizona, fans from Arizona might know what I'm talking about, but there's a minor college hockey league stadium there, and that's about like the size of this. It's like a very minor league college level stadium, just not big at all. Like
how many people would you say were there last night? Maybe like 1,000.
So like the bleachers only went up maybe 10 seats, right?
Yeah.
So 10 seats all around. Like it was not a very tall building, and the building was filled up probably 70% of the way.
It reminded me a lot of if a high school gymnasium had a hockey rink in the middle and then just slightly more seats. That's what it reminded me of.
If a high school gymnasium had seats that looped all the way around one side, the wall, and then on the other side, then that's
there was a stage on the other side, like an actual stage. Did you see that? Behind where the curtain was.
Yeah, if you look up photos of upstate Syracuse Medical Center, that's a stage that's for concerts and stuff. So.
Yeah, but anyway, it was a really good time. We're gonna dive into, before we get into the card, what were your takeaways that you learned from going to a house show versus, because you said you went to like an NXT tryout before?
Yeah, growing up, back when I was like brand new to wrestling and I knew nothing about it, right? All that I saw online was, oh, Royal Rumble. These must be tickets for the Royal Rumble. Hey mom, can we go to that? And she said, yeah, sure. And then we went there. I think that we went to Comic-Con the same day, but we went there and like I didn't read the full thing. It wasn't the Royal Rumble. It was a Royal Rumble hosted indie wrestling tryouts selection in like the lobby of a hotel. They set up a ring and they were having indie wrestlers from Arizona try out in front of Triple H while he like stood on the top balcony and watched. And I was watching this, I was like, oh, so it's not the Royal Rumble. Okay, but it was whatever. I got to see Kofi and Ryback there. They were like hosting the thing, and then the indies were doing whatever. And then just seeing Triple H within eye view for me as a kid, like that was worth the ticket alone. And then in 2016, I went to the 2016 Survivor Series. That's the one where AJ Styles fought Brock Lesnar. And
how different was the environment last night to Survivor Series? Because Survivor Series is a big four shows.
I'm actually the perfect person to ask this because back then I did not love wrestling. I was a wrestling fan. I liked WWE. I liked AJ Styles and Bray Wyatt, and everybody else was a bad guy, and I hated them. Right, so. Yeah. How did I like it? I liked it, but like when I saw, I think that was when Triple H turned on Shane, right? Or no, that was when Kevin and Sami beat up Shane during the Survivor Series match. And watching that, I was very upset because I was a Team SmackDown guy, you know. And that was like the last thing that I saw. So I left the arena very upset because the bad guys beat up my hero. But like we just loved everything coming out of the house show because we know, right? And we appreciate what the heels do. So I don't think that I enjoyed it as much as I did this show. But I would say that it felt more real to me back then because it was real. These were my heroes and they're getting beat up by the bad guys.
So I've never. This was my first wrestling show that I've ever been to live, and I've heard a lot of things from my buddies that go to like when SmackDown's in Hershey. They go. My one buddy, he's gone to WrestleMania every single year.
That's insane.
Well, he's an indie wrestler too. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Merrick Miami, I'm gonna plug him on the show. He had a really good match against Matt Cardona. Subscribe to his YouTube channel and. Spread the word. He's up and coming. He's really good. But I always heard different things about when the primary focus of the show is like for TV, they'll take breaks. They'll show so many recaps. There's a lot of like rest holds. You were even chanting it when they were doing rest holds. You're like, this isn't a commercial break. Let's see some wrestling.
Yeah. There was I think it was during the Cody match. Cody hit like a chin lock on Seth, and I just yelled out, "Cody, there's no commercials. You don't have to take it slow for us." Yeah.
But to me, this felt very pun not intended, but very raw in how wrestling is supposed to be.
It was back to back wrestling match. It's over. Maybe like a minute break. All right, next wrestlers come on out.
It was a wrestling show. That's what it was, and it wasn't televised. It wasn't filmed really.
The only promo, correct me if
was
I'm
Charlotte.
wrong. Yeah, it was Charlotte.
And Charlotte, Cody, and Roman, but Cody was after.
Cody was to get us ready for the intermission.
And
Roman was to send us home, and Charlotte was because it was an open challenge. But.
Yeah. But this felt like old school. This is how wrestling is supposed to be. It's a show that you go to watch live, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I was thinking when we went in was, it's just a house show. There's not really going to be anybody there of value. It's going to be for like dark matches, essentially, like NXT guys that are getting ready to figure out how they're going to debut on the main roster. So we might see some shit that we're not supposed to see. We definitely saw some stuff that we weren't supposed to see.
We went in thinking that we were going to see LA Knight.
We went in thinking we were going to see like Shotzi Blackheart and Xia Li and like these no name people, and every single match was not only great, but all of the big stars were there. Every single one. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Ricochet, Finn Balor. I could go on and on.
This was like a SummerSlam card. It was just given to us for $30.
So I think it's very apparent that they were using this show as like a practice trial run to build to the next pay-per-view. Maybe not the next pay-per-view, but like maybe SummerSlam.
Well, they're doing Seth and Cody at Backlash, so maybe some of the matches they're getting ready for Backlash.
So we'll run down the card real quick, and then we'll go through, talk about each one. So the opening match was for the Intercontinental Championship. It was Ricochet versus Sami Zayn, and it was awesome. Then after that, it was... Who was next? It wasn't Charlotte after that, was it?
I think it might have been, yeah.
Charlotte came out, cut a promo.
Literally every title was defended that night.
Yeah.
Every time.
Charlotte came out, cut a promo, said that she was going through an open challenge, and me and Aaron got a whole bunch of people to start chanting, "We want Shayna," because we were going nuts for Shayna Baszler if she would have been there. And Charlotte looked straight at us and was like, "Shut up!" It was awesome.
Yeah, we got Charlotte Flair to tell us to shut up. That was the highlight of the night.
The fan interaction at a house show is next level. Because you can, like I said, the arena's not very big. So if you and your buddy are really loud, they will hear you and they will act on it.
Yeah, you made a statement to me like as we left where you were like, man, like the crowd interaction and as far as like what they're willing to do like really surprised me because it was very low, and I looked at you and I was like well yeah like that's the reason why we started so many chants. It's because no one else was doing it. So
we were definitely the ones that started a lot of chants.
Yeah. We started a "We Want Stardust" chant. We started there was a few that we started throughout the night.
Yeah. So all right. So the first half I remember it now. So the first match was Intercontinental title, Ricochet versus Sami Zayn. Second match was AJ Styles versus Damien Priest.
That's right. That was awesome.
Third match was Charlotte Open Challenge versus Aaliyah. and that was fine.
Aaliyah has a new theme song.
Yeah.
And I hate it. I miss her old theme song. Her old theme song sounded very Egyptian. Her new theme song gives me Lacey Evans vibes.
And then after that was then it was Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes, wasn't it?
No.
No, it was the Usos. It was a triple threat. It was the Usos versus the New Day versus Ridge Holland and Sheamus for the SmackDown Tag Team titles.
Yes.
Then it was Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. I will be able to die saying I got to see two of my all-time favorite matchups. I got to see them live at a house show, and it was awesome. Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. And
was the main event?
The main event was
Okay.
And then it went to an intermission. We came back. It was Finn Balor versus Austin Theory.
And by the way, for the record, we're flying through these matches right now just to give
we're gonna break them down
to give you an overview of what they are. These were not like 5-minute whatever matches.
They were full 30-minute pay-per-view matches.
Yeah, it would have been so easy for WWE and for those wrestlers to say, and we'll touch back on this later with what Roman said, right? It would have been so easy for the wrestlers to say,
just phone it in, yeah.
All right, guys, we're in Syracuse. Who gives a shit? Let's just give them a 5-10 minute match and then let's go home.
No, they put on a...
They pulled out all the stuff. I want to say that the shortest match that we got was 15 minutes. Everything else was like 20 minutes.
They put on a 5-star pay-per-view caliber show for a tiny arena in Syracuse.
The main event in particular, that was like...
mind-blowing.
That was like in the top 5 best of that person's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the intermission goes, and then the first match after the intermission was for the United States title. It was Finn Balor versus Austin Theory. We will talk about this match.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Quite a bit. Then it went into the triple threat for the Raw.
Yes.
Triple threat for the Raw Women's Championship. It was Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley.
Yes.
And that match was incredible.
The crowd was so hot for Rhea Ripley.
That match was incredible. Yeah. Oh my god. And then after that, what did we get?
I think it was the main event from there.
I feel like we're missing one match.
If I can't remember it, then I'm pretty sure it was the main event.
Yeah, well, anyway, the main event was for the WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship of the World, whatever they're calling it now. The Undisputed Championship.
They're calling it the Undisputed Universal WWE Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah. And it was Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
And it was like a 35, 40-minute match, and it was awesome. It was so much better than their Survivor Series match from 2 years ago. It wasn't even funny. It was so good.
I thought a lot about that match because you actually said something that they worked on throughout the match. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about that when we get to it. But that was the match card.
Yeah. So before we break down every match, I want to talk about some of the things maybe you've heard us comment about before, about maybe we're Charlotte haters or Becky Lynch haters. We complain a lot about those two, and I just want to say this. Charlotte Flair on TV can be super cringe and just unwatchable. Charlotte Flair live in person is one of the best working heels I have ever seen in my entire life. She was so good.
I never.
She played up to the crowd. She's not cringe on the mic. She came out. It was so much fun to boo her. The fact that she told me to shut up because I was screaming for Shayna Baszler.
Charlotte's one of the few wrestlers left in WWE that understands crowd interaction. Yeah. I'd say her and The Miz are the only ones who actually do it anymore.
Yeah, and I would say out of the entire show, Becky Lynch, Austin Theory, and Sami Zayn were the best heels I've ever seen. They were just... Austin Theory was being a chicken shit, just an asshole, talking shit to the crowd. Becky Lynch was just oh, I hate you. And it was so fun to watch.
Yeah. And then Austin Theory is just an asshole.
Yeah, and on top of that, Ricochet is the best babyface that WWE has.
Well, I mean, Vince literally said he's one of the best they have.
Yeah, I love Ricochet even more now from seeing him live last night. So, one of the things that I noticed, I noticed this right off the bat in the first match, was when wrestlers take bumps and just do anything. They do it very, very big. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, they emote to the people who are in the top nosebleed seats. You could see everything clear as day. And we had pretty decent seats.
We were
for $35. They were very good seats.
if this were a football game, we were over at the back left corner of one of the field goals, but because there's no field goal in the way, we got a perfect like bird's eye view down angle of it all. So very good, and it's a small stadium, so less than 50 feet away.
So, you and I both started watching like all of the Al Snow training videos, and one of the things that he says in one of them is, wrestling is meant to be watched live, and when you take bumps and you sell, you're selling to the people in the audience, not just the camera. And I saw that live in person last night. And Ricochet is so good at popping the crowd. Every time he took a bump, everybody was pissed off. Every time he fought a little bit of a comeback, he would like do a fist bump, and you could see it throughout the entire arena, and he popped the entire crowd.
Well, it's because Sami is such a good heel. He made you want to see Ricochet win so damn bad.
Yeah, and it was strictly because of this match that I formulated one of my hot takes that I'm going to talk about later on. But
it's funny, and that's funny because sitting here watching wrestling at home, you and I fucking love Sami Zayn. When he's dancing on the screen, we love it. Like, I love anything that he does, but in that moment, just being there live, feeling the hatred from that crowd, he's boo, boo, you're a coward, get in the ring.
yeah.
It's very easy to trick yourself into going, yeah, fuck Sami Zayn, he's the heel, because the crowd's booing him and you want to join in and you want to be loud.
It was awesome. And honestly, the last couple of months, I kind of soured a little bit on Ricochet because he's not he's an amazing athlete, but just because he wasn't really featured on TV, I was kind of indifferent to Ricochet for a while. And after seeing him live last night, I complete 180. He's one of my top tier wrestlers in the world right now. Like, he's amazing.
I'll say this for the record, right? If at any point I ever say, and I'm sure that I've said it on this podcast before, if I ever say that I don't like a wrestler, which I don't think that I've ever said, right? But if it ever comes off that way, that's not the case. I will never say that I don't like a wrestler, or that I don't like a wrestling company, or that I don't like a wrestling company. I will say that I don't like what they're doing at the current moment, right? I don't like this storyline. I didn't like that promo. I didn't like that match. But I'll never say that I didn't like a wrestler, right? Any hatred that may have came off from us for Charlotte Flair is not because we hate Charlotte Flair or Ronda Rousey.
Hated the material that she was given.
We hated the feud, right? Ricochet might have had a boring title run so far, and I might have like made jokes about that. But Ricochet the wrestler is fantastic. I just want to see him in better feuds, you know? The only time that I will ever actually say that I don't like a wrestler and I want him off my screen is if they fucking hurt another wrestler, or if they're doing like inappropriate illegal shit, you know, stuff like that. But outside of that, any negativity that I project from here on out towards a wrestler or company is not targeted at them. It's targeted at what they're doing.
I just want to say this: when you have, you know how you hear people like when Daniel Bryan first got in the WWE, he was like, "Well, I paved my way on the Indies. I wrestled in bingo halls and all that stuff." There's a stigma that goes along with WWE that if you work there, that you didn't have to do any of that. If you just if you're a product of the system and came from NXT, the Performance Center, and you never had time on the Indies, I will shoot down anybody for the rest of my life saying that WWE guys don't work in front of small crowds and don't know what it's like. You had the biggest star in our sport of professional wrestling working his ass off in front of a tiny crowd in a stupid little city, Syracuse. And not just him, not just Roman Reigns. Everybody on the card worked their ass off. And it was awesome performance. I was gonna say, not only they didn't just have the face of the company put on a match. The face of wrestling.
They didn't just have the face of wrestling put on a match in front of a small crowd. They had the face of the company put on a 5-star 40-minute pay-per-view match in front of a crowd of 1,000, and then go
on Easter Sunday,
then go out of his way to send them all home.
On Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
People didn't have to come out. They didn't have to do this. And just the fact that they did, I'm so thankful for WWE for this. That they did that. It was an awesome experience, and it really put a lot of things into perspective. And I don't really have that much negative to say about WWE anymore after this, because a lot of my preconceived notions on WWE I got them from YouTubers and other people's opinions on the company, and any business decision that they make, that's something that you can say, but when it comes down to the actual talent and calling certain people lazy, a lot of people say that Charlotte Flair's lazy, she's a lazy worker, or Becky Lynch, she politics her way in the back. Hell no. Becky Lynch is a world-class professional. Yeah. Just for performing damn near 5-star match on Easter Sunday for a meaningless crowd, essentially. Like that. It was an honor to be there for that.
Yeah. I won't agree with you that I don't have anything negative to say about WWE. I said this.
No, I have negative things to say about like some of the business decisions, like the releases and like using Pete Dunne as Butch.
Yeah.
And Gunther and like those things, it can be negative. But like as the actual performers and the touring schedule and stuff like that, no.
Yeah, I won't go as far as to say that I don't have anything negative to say about the company. I will always have negatives to say about everything wrestling, about every company, and I will always voice my opinions on them. But that doesn't mean that I hate the company or the wrestlers. It just means that I notice stuff that can be improved.
Yeah.
But as far as being, it's like I said, as far as being there live, none of that matters.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this match with Ricochet and Sami Zayn proved that because the crowd was so fucking hot for Ricochet to win. Which he did, obviously. In case you're wondering, no titles changed hands, obviously.
We were expecting that.
It's a non-televised house show. They're not going to do that.
That brings me into one of my other points. We saw a lot of WWE fans, and the WWE fan base, it really put a lot into perspective for me. I'm going to use that word perspective quite a bit in this episode. I would say the vast majority of the audience were children. And normally one of my hot takes that I would say that I completely disagree with now is I've said I hate seeing kids at wrestling shows because it's not for kids.
Yeah, you've said that a lot of times.
I said that a lot, and I've completely changed my mind on this just from being there and seeing how the kids interact and how like this was like there was a kid there with a sign that says it's my birthday and he was in the front row and Cody Rhodes came up and signed it and
yeah, I won't spoil the match yet because we're not talking about it yet, but there was a kid sitting right in front of us the whole time, right? And you and me are huge Roman Reigns fans. His fucking theme song is my ringtone. I love Roman Reigns. I love Drew McIntyre. I love them both probably equally, but in that moment you're so caught up in it. Well, Roman's the heel, Drew's the babyface. I want to play along with them. Yeah. I'm going to cheer for Drew. But the kid in front of me did not see it that way. To that kid, Roman Reigns is my tribal chief. He's my and he's my hero. And he turned around to us and he was like, "Shut up! How dare you cheer for Drew? Roman's gonna kick his ass." He was so fucking into it, so enthusiastic.
Well, that brings me into my next point: is for a lot of the kids there, wrestling was still very much real.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was such a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah. Like they had no grasp of the concept of Drew's the babyface and you should cheer for him. They didn't give a shit.
They had no idea. They were fully unexpected when they heard that there was a title match. They were so excited. Yeah. And you and me are sitting there like, well, I mean, the title's not going to change hands. Like, it's not that big of a deal. It's just like having a title match on Raw or SmackDown. There were no screwy finishes, by the way.
No.
That blew me away. But like the audience, there was a guy in there that was there with his kids. And like he's a smart fan like everybody else.
Is that the guy that was in front of us?
There was a guy that was in front of us, and he was there with his family, and we were trying to start chants, and he was going nuts every time Ricochet, like when Ricochet ended with the shooting star press, he popped out of his seat and was going nuts. He's like, "That was awesome!"
Yeah.
You know, we'll get to the Rollins match and talk about her. Yeah. She inspired me.
Yes.
To be a better wrestling fan.
Yeah.
But anyway. Before the Cody Rhodes Seth Rollins match, we were talking with some of the people around us.
Yes.
And we were talking about like AEW.
That's because it was during the Cody.
It was right before it. Yeah.
It was right before it during the entrance. You leaned to me and you said, "Dude, let's start a We Want Brandy chant." And I thought of it and I was like no. And you're like, "Why not?" And I said because none of these fucking people know who Brandy are. And you're like, "Sure they do." And then you looked around and you were like, "Hey man, you know what AEW is, right?" And he was like, "Yeah, like I guess that I've heard of it." And you're like, "What?" And then you asked the
kid below who's like really into wrestling. I'm like, you watch AEW, right? He's like,
I've seen it.
I've seen it like a couple of times. I'm like, yeah. Oh, so you agree? Like it's a better show.
And then
he's like, yeah.
And then I turned back to you. I was like, see, no one fucking knows who Brandy is. Like,
a lot of the AEW fans will get really mad about Cody Rhodes joining WWE, and Cody Rhodes has said this multiple times. The reason that he didn't debut in Jacksonville is like that was never going to happen. He would be morally against that because him coming to WWE is more about him returning to WWE than him leaving AEW. There will probably be 0 AEW references for this entire run that he's had. Like they'll allude to like, oh, you were away, you founded a company, you did this, you did that. But they won't be taking cheap shots at AEW because that's not what it's about. Because most of the fan base probably won't understand that.
Yeah.
And
if what we saw tonight was any proof, the most that they know of AEW is that they know that it exists, like how they know that Impact.
They know that he was there. They just didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't give a shit.
It was, to me, it was a lot like, when Kurt Angle came back to WWE. Kurt Angle's best work of his entire career was in TNA, but I didn't watch TNA. When the Hardy Boys came back to WWE, like, they were in TNA forever, but I didn't watch them on TNA, so I didn't really care. I just heard this, the broken Matt Hardy thing is like the coolest thing ever, and then they brought it into WWE, and I was happy that the Hardys were back, but I feel like that's how a lot of the audience views Cody Rhodes now, that like, he's just back, and we always liked Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
So,
but as far as AEW is, they don't care.
Yeah, as far as AEW, I honestly, if I could give any advice to Tony Khan, as a fan of his show, I would say, stop with all the WWE hatred on your show. It's like when CM Punk says, when they're talking about WrestleMania in a promo, like Daniel Bryan when he came in, he wanted to get heat, so he was like, when I won the world title at WrestleMania, I wrestled the very next day. Like, that was cool. But when you have MJF saying, I'm gonna play out my contract right, it was like, I might main event at WrestleMania, and then CM Punk's like, go ahead and main event night 4 of a buy one get one free extravaganza. Like, we don't need that shit. That's cheap heat. When you have him calling MJF a second-rate, less famous Miz, like, it's fun for the time. But when you really think about it, like, number 1 doesn't talk about number 2. Number 2 always talks about number 1. That's what Charlotte Flair says all the time.
It's like I told you. It's the fucking Chihuahua syndrome. It's the we are smaller, and therefore we need to be loud and proud. And then you have the big dog, ironic because Roman's the head, looking down going, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Leave me alone.
If you go back and watch the early episodes of Nitro, they were always talking about the WWF. All the time. And then you watch Raw, they've rarely said anything.
Yeah.
The only times they said anything was like when X-Pac came back and like called out Eric Bischoff as a piece of shit.
I know that they can't control the fucking crowd and the fans of AEW, but every time that I hear the crowd chant AEW, AEW, all that I hear in my head is just we're number 2, because that's what ECW did at the time, right? They chanted ECW.
I think ECW was a little different because ECW kind of created this entire.
But it was still
It
was still the same mindset of the fans, where it's like, yeah, fuck you WWE. We're the cool, edgy alternative.
Well, the thing with ECW is ECW was like the underground mentality. It was like an underground wrestling promotion, whereas AEW was very much in the spotlight.
Yeah.
But anyway, second match was AJ Styles versus Damien Priest. I gotta say this. That new graphic that he put on his Titantron looks even cooler in person than it does on TV.
Half of it's a purple angel wing, and the other half is like a skeleton wing.
Like a skeleton bat wing or something.
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck it means. I don't know what Edge's message is. I don't know what the faction is supposed to be.
I'll drink the Kool-Aid, man. I'm along all the way.
But it looks cool. Yeah. Also, it's now confirmed. Like the Razor's Edge is his new finisher, I think.
I'm totally fine with him doing that as long as no one kicks out of it.
Because he went for it during the match, I don't want to see him do a crossroads ever again. It doesn't fit him at all anymore.
Yeah, but I think Cody Rhodes kind of buried his own hold where like every time he ends a match he has to hit it 3 times. I'm like, come on, just do something else.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
Use the bionic elbow or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But this match was awesome. You've said in the past I hate AJ Styles' theme song. He needs a new one. I was grooving, man.
I was grooving too.
That song is so much fun live. You and I were just like, they don't want none.
Yeah,
and like the whole crowd was going nuts.
It's just a personal thing. I just don't like the song, but whatever. No, AJ Styles in person, he's fucking AJ Styles.
A lot of bucket list stuff for me. I got to see AJ Styles perform in person, and it was one of the greatest things of my entire life I've ever seen.
I have a 5-second clip on my phone that I need to send you. I started recording right at the moment where he did his
with the Phenomenal Forum.
Yeah, I recorded that. It was awesome.
Yeah, this match did end in a disqualification. Because Damien Priest hit AJ Styles with a chair.
I would not be surprised if tonight on Raw we see the exact same thing that we saw last night.
Yeah, no, so I think they use house shows to like rehearse for TV, which is fine. I'm totally down with it because I'm anxious to see a lot of the stuff that happened last night, but like up close in person on camera, so we can see how good it actually was. Essentially.
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the things that whenever you watch Survivor Series back, I'm sure you remember certain aspects of you being there live. And to see it in person is kind of cool.
Problem with that though is that
It changes your interpretation of everything, or
well, no, I was gonna say getting really cheap seats for a pay-per-view in a stadium.
oh yeah, you can't see shit to begin with.
We could not. Yeah, I was basically watching the Titantron the whole time. So
Yeah, I'd say for the most part, nobody really booed Damian Priest, except for when he was like trying to get heat.
yeah, when he like walked out of the ring, or
Damian Priest is massive.
he's a very tall man.
He is huge. And AJ Styles is like, I wouldn't even call him short. He's just like a normal sized man.
He's a normal sized man, but Damien's tall.
Yeah, we'll get to that whenever Drew McIntyre came out. You and I have said all the time, it was like, man, if there's one guy in the entire world that I would go gay for, like, it is Drew McIntyre. He is a man.
He's a fucking Greek god.
Yeah.
And
when he came out later
person,
on,
you're like, that's a tall
I was
man.
like, holy shit, he is huge. Oh my god. I've seen Ray Lewis in person. You know who Ray Lewis is? He was the Hall of Fame linebacker for the Ravens. I've seen him in person.
The name's familiar.
Drew McIntyre dwarfs Ray Lewis. It is nuts.
He truly is the Scottish warrior.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the match was awesome. It reminded me a lot of the match that they had on Raw last week, but without the, teleporting as a vampire in the middle of the ring. Whatever Damian Priest did there. The match after that was the Charlotte Flair Open Challenge, and we will talk a little bit about this. I didn't really think there was going to be any promos because it was like you said, it was just like a round robin match after match after match after match.
Yeah.
When Charlotte came out, she came out to pretty much unanimous cheers, except for like one dude in the back just like, stupid blonde whore, go home! Like you're a dumb slut.
Yeah, there was a guy in the back who really didn't like her.
He was very much a misogynist.
Unfortunately, you and me were louder than him, so not much of what he said was heard.
She came out to like unanimous cheers, and then she kind of like broke kayfabe for a little bit. Said I was like, "Oh, I'm happy to be here. Happy you guys are all here." And then she mentioned Ronda Rousey, and we're like, "Oh, here we go." And she's like, "She's a quitter, just like all of you. You probably all quit." She cut the same promo that she cut on SmackDown. It was like, "Oh, you probably quit relationships." And
yeah, I remember.
I was about to be like, "I quit drinking."
The exact quote that she used was it was Ronda Rousey, and then there was like a crowd reaction, and she was interpreting it as like cheers, and then she said, "Oh, that's right, you guys like Ronda Rousey. It's probably because she's a quitter, and she was like pointing, just like all of you, and then she was listing off things that you quit in your life,
and then everybody started booing.
Yeah,
and then Aaron and I were like, Shayna.
Well, it's because she didn't list the open challenge yet, but she hinted at it, and so we were just saying, "We want Shayna," and then we did that like 5 times, and then she said, "Shut up." She snapped, "Shut up!" And it was
it was awesome.
Yeah.
I was really upset. Like we started a lot of chants, but I was kind of upset that not a lot of them caught on. Like the entire arena. Like we started a whole bunch of "This is awesome" chants, and the entire arena didn't really.
I would say that all of our chants at bare minimum were like over in our section, right? Like all of our chants got at least 50 people joining in, right? But the only chants that circulated were the fucking "We Want Stardust" chants, the "This is awesome." A lot of times you and me started the fucking claps, and a lot of times just chanting the name of the guy got it, Like,
oh yeah, we started a "We Want Stardust" chant, and then Cody did the cartwheel and the Stardust thing.
Oh no, we did get another one. We started a "Rhea's Gonna Kill You" one.
Oh yeah.
And it was so during the match, right? There was a point where like Becky throws Bianca.
Well, we didn't get to that match yet, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, Rhea acknowledged that too, and that was cool. But
she like looked at us and went, eh.
Yeah, she actually like smiled about it. But the Charlotte Aaliyah match. So
I don't mind Aaliyah's new song. We'll have to listen to both of them, but they probably don't even have the new one uploaded yet.
Yeah, I like the old. Just know that the old one was way more iconic. All right.
Yeah, I like Aaliyah a lot. I think she's very, very, very beautiful.
Oh yeah. I said that the first time that I ever saw her perform. I was like, wow. Okay.
I think she's the next genuine babyface that they have in the women's division. Like they have Bianca Belair, and
if they use
Aaliyah.
her on TV, then yeah.
If Bayley doesn't come back as like old ponytail Bayley, then she's the most genuine babyface that they have.
Or Asuka.
She looks natural when she's smiling.
Yeah.
You ever notice when like Rhea Ripley, she doesn't look natural when she smiles. Ronda Rousey, definitely, like her smile was a fake smile. With Aaliyah, she looks genuine like when she smiles. That's why I think she's like a good baby face.
She's just a little ball of happiness.
No, Braun Breaker. That's the best example I can give. Braun Breaker, when he smiles, you're like, I don't want to see you smile. I want to see you decapitate someone.
Your fucking name is Braun Breaker.
And he walks out. He walks out smiling.
I want to see you fucking break people's bones. Like,
yeah.
But no, Aaliyah is a little ball of sunshine who also made Charlotte Flair bleed because I found a video online. What happened was she fucking drop kicked her right in the face and like cut her cheek, and that's why Charlotte was bleeding.
Yeah, the best part was she made Charlotte bleed, and there wasn't a ref stoppage because there wasn't PG TV for them to like clean her up or anything. It was great.
You just put on the gloves.
Yeah, and the match was fine. I thought there's a little bit of a botch, but nobody cared.
The Aaliyah match that was the shortest match. It was at like 12.
It was like
minutes.
15, 20 minutes.
I want to say it was like just below 15.
Yeah, and
it's Aaliyah versus Charlotte Flair. Like nobody wants a 30-minute match of that. At least not right now.
I just want to say this: like any negativity that I have spewed on Charlotte Flair, like I take back all of it. I think she's incredible.
I never hated Charlotte Flair.
Yeah.
I just hated her Ronda feud.
Yeah, I hated her Ronda feud too. Like I think Ronda's good on the mic if she's being herself. I think Charlotte's just amazing.
Yeah.
And then what was the next match? The next match was the tag team match, right? That was when you got out to like get water.
Yes, just because like no offense, but I don't give a shit about the New Day versus Sheamus and Ridge Holland.
This match was the most this one was the most sports entertainment.
This match was hands down. Well, yeah, because
it was the Easter themed match.
Kofi and Xavier were wearing rabbit ears, and Kofi was doing bunny hops.
They were throwing eggs out. And
they were doing the new Day Rock's beat, but it was Kofi shaking his ass and bouncing around like a rabbit. And it wasn't just me. Like you looked around the theater, there were a lot of people taking that as a bathroom break. They used it as a bathroom break.
It was a very funny match. Sheamus is awesome.
Sheamus is so pale in person.
I love Sheamus.
Every single light in the arena was out, and you could still see him in front of that black like LED screen.
This dude is loud as fuck. Sorry for the F-bomb, but this dude is so loud.
Fella. And you could hear it all throughout the arena.
Not only was like the arena really loud to begin with, keep in
mind, right? Sheamus, to put it into perspective, Sheamus was on one end. He was on
the complete opposite end of us. Yeah. And you know how like he screams "fella" when his lights come on. He did that, and I could hear him like he was like sitting just right in front of me. Like he is so loud.
To be fair, they could have put a microphone nearby.
I highly doubt that.
He's a very loud man.
Speaking of microphones, there's definitely a microphone under the ring. You could hear it because that ring was loud.
Well, yeah. You know, I mean, that's what they do. They hit their foot. What's that show? What's that series on YouTube?
It's like the Secrets of Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, where like every wrestler.
It's like the magic show.
Every wrestler wears a face mask because they got to be anonymous for some fucking reason. I don't know why, but yeah, they have microphones in there.
This match was. It was, like I said, it was the Easter-themed match. It was for the kids. They were handing out Easter eggs and Easter baskets and stuff.
Xavier was throwing eggs into the crowd.
Yeah, before the match started, like, the bell rang, and then Woods got a microphone, and it said Happy Easter to everybody. The Usos and the New Day.
Oh yeah, Jimmy. When Kofi was shaking his ass to the New Day beat.
Jay was losing he was dying laughing.
Jimmy was like out of the ring, but if you looked over at Jay, he was like hunched over, hiding his face because he was laughing his ass off.
Oh yeah, no, and Sheamus and Ridge Holland had to turn around because they were like about to break character because it was so funny. So they like turned around and were like pushing their heads into the turnbuckle, trying not to laugh.
Yeah, Kofi's awesome.
But yeah, so there was one spot that you missed.
Oh yeah, that's right. Cause I went to the bathroom.
Because you went to go like refill water bottles or get.
I went to refill mine and get you one. Because again, keep in mind, me and him were screaming so fucking loud.
Another crazy thing about the water bottles, I didn't know this. You found that out. There's like so when you go to a wrestling show and get a bottled water. You cannot. They take the cap off of it, and you can't take the cap into you. And
I asked the guy why do you do that, and he's like, I don't know. They just told me to do it. And then I thought about it, and I was like, oh, it's so that you can't fucking chuck a full water bottle at them. It's so that way if you throw it, the water will come out and it'll like hopefully lose steam, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like the thought of a wrestler getting a full water bottle chucked at their head is like terrifying. Like I hope that never happens, dude.
Yeah. But anyway, there was this one spot in this match where, so there were two. There was one where like Sheamus is doing like the 10 beats of the Bowery, and it's like right next to where the Usos were out on the corner, and Jimmy kept on smacking Sheamus to like tag himself in, and then like he would get down to get Woods out of the ropes, and then Sheamus would smack him to get back into the ring, and they kept on going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and then they started punching each other.
Oh,
and then they did the one spot where Jimmy, he like gets up on the back of Sheamus, and then he flips him over so that Sheamus is standing like right above his chest, and he's like taunting the crowd, and then Woods sneaks up behind him, and you know the what's the thing where they like go into the turnbuckle and he grabs his legs and does like the seesaw thing.
I know where you're. I think that it is called seesaw.
Yeah. So Woods goes up, grabs Jimmy's legs, and gets him in the seesaw thing, and falls down, and Jimmy Uso's face goes right up into Sheamus's crotch, and that was so funny. I've never seen that before. It was so creative. Because I'm like, how could Sheamus not see it? And then I think like he's just sitting there just talking trash to Kofi the entire time. Kofi Kingston is hilarious live. Oh my god, that guy's hilarious.
And Kofi's awesome.
Yeah, I love Kofi Kingston. I love everybody, man. And Ridge Holland is getting a lot better.
Yeah.
He's a big beefy boy. He's getting a lot better.
Yeah, it was making me really sad that a lot of people were hating on Ridge Holland for the Biggie incident.
Okay, so that's all we have to say about this segment. It was a fun. This was the fun Easter themed segment for the evening. I love the New Day. They're never gonna get old. I hope they never turn heel or break up.
I don't think they ever will. They're way too profitable. For
Yeah.
WWE.
The next match is the match that we've been holding all of this anticipation. This was the Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes match. It was not only awesome, that like just the fact that we got to witness it in person was amazing. I loved every second of it. The thing that elevated it even more was there was a girl. Let me give you some backstory on this girl before we talk about what she was doing. If you ever go to Syracuse, it is a very trashy, disgusting city. Within the first 5 minutes of being there, standing in line, a homeless man came up to us, asked us for money, and then there was what's his name? DJ Chocolate?
I'm pretty sure it was DJ Milkshake.
DJ Milk Chocolate. It was some dude that was selling bootleg CDs of his own music or whatever.
And the CDs were wrapped in like...
They were wrapped in like Coke... Like
they were wrapped in like fucking saran wrap, and like on the cover of the CDs, he didn't have a cover for the CDs. Like it literally still said blank CDRs, right? He just drew like a little picture of a blunt on them.
Yeah.
And like I don't know, you know.
I'm kind of regretting throwing it away. I really wanted to. I kind of want to listen to it. But
I don't care.
I bet he's on SoundCloud. We could probably look him up.
I already gave him my money. I don't owe him my time too. I didn't want the CD. I just didn't want to turn him down. It was funny though.
Yeah.
It's funny though because after I bought the CD, right? He turned to me and he said, "Hey man, thanks for not being racist." And I was like, "No problem, dude. Whatever you say, DJ."
But anyway,
Chocolate."
so it was a homeless guy came up to ask for us for money.
The homeless guy had 3 teeth.
He had 3 teeth.
I was able to count them all.
Yep. And then the bootleg CDs, and then they opened the gates, and then right before we went in, a drug deal just literally happened right in front of the door.
And when we say right in front of the door, we mean
literally right in front of the door.
I mean like audience at home, turn your head to the left, all right? There's the front door, turn your head to the right. There's a garbage can, and now picture a woman sat next to the garbage can reaching into her sock to pull out a substance of your imagination. Yeah, that happened right in front of us, and you and I just kind of looked at each other and we're like, well,
yeah,
I guess this is happening.
But we get in there, and then, you know, you and I are both in the military, so there's a grooming, cleaning standard that we're used to. Like, we're not used to people just smelling terrible, and not, like, you gotta shave, you gotta shower, you gotta have, there's a regulation that you have to have your fingernails trimmed to, like,
yeah.
You really dive deep into them, like, there are standards that you gotta uphold. And then you get into a public place with... When MJF calls wrestling fans white trash hicks, I get it now. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm a redneck. I grew up on a farm all the way. Like, this is the type of people that I would normally kind of just like, oh yeah, no, that's Jimmy. He lives down the road. These people fucking smell terrible. Okay? They walk in. The mother smelled like liquor, meth, and BO. She had 0 teeth. No, she had 1 tooth, and it was on the bottom of her mouth. The husband or son or whatever, he was like He had like a really weird pirate goatee looking thing. There was a little kid on the other side, and then there was this girl who was dressed in head to toe with a Seth Rollins t-shirt, Seth Rollins sweatshirt, and Seth Rollins sweatpants.
Yeah. She had like custom Seth Rollins tight pants on or something. It was weird.
She smelled even worse than the mom, and it's like, I hate this. This sounds like I'm being very judgmental. It's just like I have a very sensitive nose, so I smell things all like I detest the smell of alcohol. I stopped drinking a long time ago, and I can't really be around that stuff because it brings back a lot of memories and makes me want to throw up. But
I detest the smell of pot.
That was earlier in the mall.
And Syracuse delivered on that front multiple times.
But like everywhere in a wrestling show, there's just beer everywhere, open beer. You smell the beer and liquor everywhere. And I was just thinking, oh God, we got to sit next to these people. And I was being very, very judgmental. Every time we started a chant, the Meth Mom, she turned around and started laughing at us, and it brought me joy that she was having a good time.
Yeah.
And then the Seth Rollins match came on. And this girl did not sit down the entire match.
No.
She was standing up. I love you, Seth! Woo! She was going nuts.
To this woman, Seth Rollins is my hero.
Seth Rollins is Jesus Christ to her.
Seth Rollins is my hero, and he's going to win this match because he's the best wrestler in the world. And anybody who doesn't cheer for him, I hate you, right?
It was obvious to literally everybody who was in there that Cody Rhodes was going to win the match because he just came back. And
she didn't give a shit. To her,
she didn't.
To her, it was real, man.
To her, wrestling was so real, and it was so awesome to see.
Every single pin that Cody went for on Seth, she was screaming, "Get up, Seth!" Every single pin that Seth went for, she counted. She kept on saying, 2, and when it didn't hit, she'd go, "No!" Like she
kept on saying, "I believe in you."
And like you and me wanted Cody to win, but I was like, all right, I'll bite. I will play along with the wrestlers. So when Seth was in the corner, you and me started a "burn it down" chant 3 times. And
she kept turning around. She's like, "Yes, burn it down!"
Yeah, every time that we started it, she got so excited off that energy.
And you would think that the girl that we're describing is like, oh, she's like 8 years old. No, she was like 14, 15, 16 years old.
Seth Rollins was her hero.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. Like as we were leaving the show, like near the edge of the building, they had all of the fucking trucks lined up. And you and me considered going down there, and we're like, no, we won't. I wouldn't be surprised if she went there afterwards, like because she needed to see her hero. Like she was that level of like, I love you, Seth.
So I had a little bit of an epiphany. You and I are both very nice guys. We'd like to give. You definitely more than me. Cause
I lost $30 before I entered the fucking show.
But when you talk about wrestling fans, you and I both want to be wrestlers. If we ever make it big and have a fan base, you just got to think of the type of people that you're going to be meeting and coming up to you for autographs. The amount of restraint of like calling people bum, trash bag, shit buckets or whatever, like the amount of dirty people that want to come up to you. I'm a little bit of a germaphobe when it comes to that kind of stuff. I don't know how I would act, but honestly, like it was so refreshing and beautiful to see. Like she was so into Seth Rollins' match. And
you made the statement in the beginning of the podcast that you need to be a better wrestling fan like her.
I honestly wish every single person that watched wrestling was like her. She made my night. Like if she ever, she's not going to watch the podcast, but if she ever stumbled upon this, I don't know what your name is. I don't know if you're actually from Syracuse, but you single-handedly made my Easter Sunday, and Roman Reigns was in the same building as you were, and like it was so inspiring to me as a person who loves professional wrestling to see just how much a fan can get into it.
Yeah, that girl was the epitome of the meme of fucking like it's still real to me, damn it.
I loved it. That's one of the things that really changed my mind on is like seeing kids at wrestling shows is like to a lot of those kids, wrestling is still real, it's so cool.
Yeah, and I'll say like obviously I was fully into it, but in the back of my mind, I still know that it's fake. I love Seth Rollins, I love Cody Rhodes. I just want to see them fight. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I can't fully get immersed and I want this guy to win. But by the end of the pay-per-view with the main event, I'd say that was when my brain finally switched over into her mindset of Drew. Like it took me a while to get there.
And you and I have both said this. Well, maybe me more than you. I really like Liv Morgan. I think
Yeah.
Liv Morgan's a pretty genuine human being and just an awesome person. But we kind of started playing along with the internet wrestling community mindset of, well, she's a loser. She's been presented as she just loses all the time, so she's a loser. And I'm thinking, well, shit, Seth Rollins has lost a lot in the last couple weeks, but this girl just doesn't care. She's just a fan. She was just so happy to see him wrestle. Like, man, if Liv Morgan would go after Bianca Belair for the Raw title, like tonight on Raw, like I'd probably just be sitting there like, you go, girl.
You go, girl.
You go, girl. That's awesome.
I'm gonna hold you to it if that happens.
She won't. She's in the match for the tag team titles tonight.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, after this match, Cody got on the microphone. He's like, "You guys having a good time?"
Oh, and by the way, we're not talking about the Cody match because if you watch WrestleMania, then you've already seen this match.
It was basically the same match.
The only difference was that Seth threw a bionic elbow, and when he
missed.
And when he did that, you and me were chanting, "That's not yours. That's not yours." It was awesome. But yeah, after that, Seth got on the mic, and
Cody got on the mic.
Yeah, my bad. Cody got on the mic, and he did the whole Did he say what do you guys want to talk about? I think.
No, he said, "You guys having a good time?"
Yeah.
He wanted to wish everybody a happy Easter and said, "I just want to let you know that I'm going into intermission." And then someone threw him the tour shirt, and he's like, "Should I put it on or should I throw it away?"
He said, "Yeah, it was just funny." He
throw it out.
He made the statement, "This is kind of like a sacrilegious decision that I have to make here. Do I put on a shirt that doesn't even have my name or that doesn't even have me on it?" And the crowd went, "No!" And then he played the card where he's like, "Oh, who am I gonna throw it to? Who am I gonna throw it?" And then he did like the most minimal effort toss to a little kid in the front row. It was awesome.
Yeah, and then after the intermission was 30 minutes, if that.
Yeah, it flew by.
I didn't realize that wrestling shows had intermissions.
Apparently, this one did.
It was pretty cool. Reminded me a lot of like being in theater when I was in high school. It was like you have an intermission halfway through your show.
It's almost like wrestling.
It's almost like wrestling is theater.
It's crazy, right?
Then right after the intermission, also, I just want to say this. So they had they had like a version of the Tron that was there. They had like the globe that has the TV screens on it above the ring.
Yeah.
I don't know what that thing's called. This would be like a scoreboard, like a digital scoreboard.
It's just the Titantron, right?
I don't know. But whenever like there wasn't anything going on, they'd play like the WWE Network like top 10
YouTube
list,
videos,
like YouTube videos. A lot of them were funny. But then they also like constantly played like the same commercials that you see like on Peacock for like Cricket Wireless and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was kind of weird to me. Like it baffles my mind that Peacock has like in the middle of a pay-per-view, it'll stop your wrestling show to show you a Cricket Wireless commercial with Charlotte Flair. Like that shit happens in live shows too, I guess. I don't know.
I find it weird that they are advertising Peacock to a bunch of people who paid for tickets to go to a wrestling show. It's
Who
like,
probably already have
yeah,
Peacock.
it's like listen, like if there was one demographic that already fucking has the service, it would be this one. Who are you marketing to right now? It's like whenever
if they were this heavy with Peacock, I can only imagine what it was like when they first like kickstarted the WWE Network.
it reminded me of you don't have HBO, but I do. Maybe you've seen it, but like a lot of times when you start off watching a movie on HBO, you'll get a 30-second ad for HBO Max, and every time I see it, I'm like, HBO, I'm already paying for your service. What more do you want from me? Like why are you advertising shit to me? I own you. Well, I don't own you, but
Yeah.
that's what it reminded me of.
So after the intermission was the United States Championship title match between Finn Balor and Austin Theory. Or no, Finn Balor and Theory. His name is Theory now.
It literally said it on his Titantron. We are recording this Monday, April 18th, 2022, 4 hours before Raw, and there is no way in fuck that Finn Balor is keeping that championship.
Yeah.
No way. Absolutely no way. I would love for him to keep it and actually build up a title reign and build up a character, but for some reason, they don't want to do anything with Finn Balor's character, right? It makes me really sad, but when the absolute most amount of effort that you can give for a title feud is a 20-second promo on the YouTube channel, why am I as a fan supposed to believe that you're gonna actually keep it on him? You know.
So Finn Balor live is awesome. I keep saying that about everybody on that wrestled last night was awesome.
Yeah.
But Finn Balor live was awesome to see. Austin Theory, next level. Austin Theory.
I
started heckling him
Austin,
And this is when the kid in front of us started like turning around.
do you like Austin Theory?
No, so I'm like, oh, the GR is a John Cena bootleg, and John Cena sucks. And the kid turned around, he's like, no, he doesn't. John Cena will kick your butt.
And his dad was like, yeah, he would. He'd kick everybody's ass.
Yeah.
The dad was very literal. He was funny.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, I find it weird that the kid was a John Cena and Roman Reigns fan, and like the two of them had.
I find it funny that like, although people, so normally when a wrestler turns heel, they kind of alienate their fan base. So like when Hogan joined the NWO, everybody who wore the Hulkamania shirts hated him.
Yeah.
When Roman turned heel, like his fan base was pretty much exclusively children when he was the big dog. And then when he turned heel, like all of a sudden the adults liked him and the kids weren't supposed to like him anymore. But I just find it funny that these little kids are walking around. Roman Reigns is awesome. They're wearing like the Roman Reigns gloves.
It's another reason why.
It's one of the reasons why I love WWE now.
It's another reason why Roman needs to do an entrance at Mania or SummerSlam with the children's choir, and then when the harpsichord starts, he turns around and they all snap into a fucking knee and bow to him. That needs to happen during this title run. Until I see that, I don't want to see him lose the belt. I need to see that.
Oh, but anyway, Austin Theory. When you want to talk about people pandering to the crowd and just like being just a piece of shit.
I am a fucking douchebag and I love it. That's Austin Theory.
That was Austin Theory. He was awesome in this match.
Yeah.
This match was it was like a 30-minute long version of one of the matches that they had on Raw.
Yeah.
I highly doubt that the match that they have tonight will be this good or this long.
Guaranteed, mark my words, the match that we see tonight will be 5 to 10 minutes at most.
Yeah. But
Finn Balor won, though.
Finn Balor did win. He won clean.
Yeah.
And
I've said
once again, just the idea that we're in a house show, and when the perception of a house show is to build up younger stars and not really kind of like phone it in, just be like it's like a throwaway show. Oh, we got to work on a Sunday, on Easter Sunday. Like, no, this was like a full scale production, really, really, really good produced match.
Yeah.
And all of the matches were like that, and it was. I can't thank WWE enough for doing that. Like, and if they did that in Syracuse, New York, on Easter Sunday, I highly doubt that it's just like a special one-off thing for Easter. Like, they're probably doing that every night, just putting on banger shows.
Right. That's right. They worked on Easter Sunday in the city where DJ Milkshake lives.
Yeah.
Just for us.
I think it's funny how they can have awesome shows that aren't televised, and then as soon as Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown comes on, it's just cringe city.
But again, it's like we said, there's the layer of separation, and there's a lot more promos. So
anyway, so after this match was the Raw Women's Championship triple threat, and this
I'd say that this is Becky's best match that she's had in like 2 years.
This is the best match that I've seen Becky Lynch been in since she came back.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
And by far the best Rhea Ripley match that I've seen her in. I don't know if I would say it's the best Bianca Belair match I've ever seen. I think her match with, honestly, that might be saying a little much. I think Becky versus Bianca at WrestleMania was better than Bianca versus Sasha Banks in my opinion. And that match was a perfect match. So I wouldn't say that this match was better than it was just better in the fact that Rhea Ripley was also in it.
Yeah. This crowd This crowd was so hot for Rhea Ripley to win.
Everybody was, yeah.
Rhea. They wanted her to win so bad, man.
Bianca Belair, seeing her in person, she is jacked.
Oh, yeah.
And her ponytail is all the way down to the floor.
However long do you think it is on TV?
It's longer.
It's longer. Her ponytail is probably bigger than AJ Styles is.
Yeah. So basically the idea of this match was Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley, and then Becky just came in the ring and just fucked everything up.
Pretty much, yeah. It
reminded me of, you know what it reminded me of?
What?
It reminded me of, what was the last WrestleMania that they had in New Orleans? Was it 35? 34?
I think it was 34.
34? So there's an opening match for the Intercontinental Championship. It's Finn Balor, Rollins, and The Miz, and that's what this match reminded me of. It was like a perfect WWE style triple threat. So we said like the best triple threat we ever saw was like Roderick Strong versus A-Kid versus Cameron Grimes on NXT that last week.
Yeah.
This is like the perfect WWE style, like, oh, the one person's out of the ring, but he's just gonna come in and like make chaos and just piss everybody off.
Yeah, the story was that Rhea and Bianca are both honored to fight each other, right?
Yeah.
And then you just have Becky being the biggest chicken shit.
They had a curtain call after the match, those two.
Yeah. Really nice.
But yeah, no, Rhea Ripley. I think that tonight she's gonna turn heel and join Edge's faction. Honestly, I think that's the best thing for her career. But I'm not gonna boo Rhea Ripley ever. Like, I love Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, I've never booed Rhea.
And like, she's the one wrestler that, like, and Edge, like, those are the two wrestlers that if WWE can try as much as they want to get me to boo them, I never will, just because I love both of them so much.
I will only ever, like I said, I don't think that I've ever booed a wrestler, apart from when I was like a kid and I hated. It's funny to me how Triple H was my childhood hero and icon, and then
WrestleMania 30 happened.
And then WrestleMania 30 happened, and I hated him. Oh, I want Daniel Bryan to win so bad, and then now he's back to being like my favorite of all time. But
I thought this was as close to a 5-star match as you could get. This match was amazing.
This was the match that had the spot that we were talking about, where what happened was Becky threw Bianca out of the match, and then Becky was like standing in the ring laughing at her, and then Rhea did like the fucking slow walk behind her. It was like a scene out of Jurassic Park where Grant's trying not to move or else the T-Rex will see her. That's what it was. Bianca just like stood there, not moving, shaking, and then Rhea was just standing behind her, kind of like leaning over her shoulders, staring at her. And then that's when we did the chant, "Rhea's gonna kill you," and she looked up and kind of smiled at it because like that was the mood at that point.
I honestly, I love NXT. Our audience knows that I love NXT. I think NXT is the best wrestling promotion ever created.
Yeah.
And two of the best products of NXT. I would say 3. Bianca Belair really didn't do much in NXT. Like, she was just like that character that was there. She had an amazing match with Rhea for the title at TakeOver Portland. But like, other than that, she was just like the girl that showed up and went, "You don't even go here." And she was a heel her entire run in NXT. But like, the two best products for me that came out of NXT were Rhea Ripley and Shayna Baszler, and both, as soon as they got to the main roster, they didn't know what to do with either one of them. They tried. They started out really hot. Rhea winning the women's title and Shayna Baszler winning, like, killing everybody in an elimination chamber. But one of the things that they used to chant all the time in NXT was "Rhea's gonna kill you," and they haven't done it at all since she came onto the main roster. So I don't know how many times that she's heard that chant since being in NXT. But for me, the fact that she like acknowledged it kind of says to me that people haven't chanted that at her for a while, and it kind of made her happy.
Speaking of which, nobody joined you and me for the Sami Olay chants.
Oh yeah, no, that was upsetting to me.
Yeah.
If you ever see Sami Zayn live, do the ole 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 ole.
We tried doing it, and I think that we were able to get 10 people to join in, but like the majority of fans,
most of them didn't get it because
they don't watch anything outside of Raw or SmackDown.
Well, it's like Rhea Ripley is a recent NXT call up. Sami Zayn's been on the main roster since WrestleMania 32.
He's been on there for like 6 years.
Yeah, that was what they chanted for him in NXT. But yeah, I think the word of Rhea Ripley. I know that in the past that she's had a lot of mental health problems with
Rhea.
Yeah, she said in an interview, like, there's not a single day where she doesn't go online and there's someone calling her a man because of her build and her short hair and her tattoos and everything. It's like, it really pisses me off because she is beautiful. Yeah. Oh my god. But I don't know. If she got a kick out of us doing her famous "Rhea's gonna kill you" chant, I thought
that was nice.
I hope we made her day, and I hope she liked that. And she's like, "Well, people still care. This is great." But anyway, after that was the main event.
Yes,
and it was probably a match that we weren't supposed to see, but not really. And it was
I don't give a shit.
Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns for the undisputed title, and it was it the undisputed title or was it just for the Universal title?
It was just for the Universal title because he's on SmackDown right now.
See, I don't know. I think
they only had the Universal
title. I feel like they just didn't make a graphic with both of them yet.
Who knows? Regardless of what it was, not it matters. He didn't win, and we knew he wasn't going to win.
Yeah, this was honestly,
It was like a 40-minute match.
this was honestly the best Drew McIntyre match I've ever seen in my entire life, and I've seen a lot of really good Drew matches.
It's so I mentioned this in the beginning, and now I'm gonna do my callback because during the match you turned to me and you made the statement, "Oh, Roman's not doing his job. He's not getting Drew over, right?" And then like from that point on,
I ate my words on that.
from
big
that
time.
from that point onward, we saw Drew McIntyre. So like the whole flow of the match, it was even for like in the beginning, right? For like the first 5-10 minutes, and then Roman's not getting booed, and it's like you said, oh he's not getting Drew over. And then from that point onward, for another 15 minutes straight, we just saw Drew McIntyre get absolutely.
He got the shit kicked out of him.
He got fucking bodied for 15 minutes straight. I mean,
So
and the guy.
this match was like as the perfect Al Snow and Raven comparison. They made this the perfect wrestling match should be like watching a Rocky movie.
Yeah.
Drew McIntyre and it was believable too.
Yeah, it was.
Like,
it wasn't like Drew was getting manhandled. It was
when they face off, Drew dwarfs Roman. Like he is so much bigger than Roman is.
Yeah.
But it was believable that Roman beat the shit out of him.
It wasn't that Roman overpowered him and just threw him around. It was that like Drew would get a few hits in, but like Roman was the better fighter and Roman was able to counter him every time. That was the vibe that I got, you know?
Yeah.
Where it was like Drew would get up, last bit of energy, hit him, but Roman would like know how to rebound and like drop kick him or whatever the fuck in order to counter him and like stay on top. The vibe that I got was not that Roman is the dominant champion. The vibe that I got is that Roman is a
piece of shit.
Well, Roman,
and he always showboats.
Roman is a piece of shit, but he's a fucking expert, and but he's an expert. But if he drops his guard for like 1 second, then it's over, right? So there's that hint of like Drew can win this. He just has to get past.
Yeah,
it was a great story.
So this match, I've always said that like I kind of like the guillotine for Roman, but I never really understood why he used it. This match made me understand it because you were there. Everybody in the arena. He couldn't beat Drew McIntyre. So he locked in the guillotine, and everybody in the arena started to boo. And I'm like, that's why. It's perfect. Because he couldn't beat him man-to-man. He's got to choke him out because he can't beat him. And then Drew's about ready to pass out. Then he stands up, runs him into the turnbuckle, goes back, he's dazed. Roman jumps up, puts the guillotine on him again. And the crowd, even more boos.
And then Drew powers out a third time, locks it in a third time, right?
Yeah.
And it kept getting bigger each time. Yeah. Yeah, it was like, we say that Roman kicked Drew's ass for like 15, 20 minutes, and yet that did not hurt Drew at all, because the fact that Drew powered out of all this shit and yet stayed in the match and
it didn't bury Drew's finish because he didn't hit a Claymore in the entire match.
That's right. Drew
he tried twice. The first time he just missed. The second time he got Superman punched, and the third time he got speared. And he kicked out of one of Roman's spears.
Yes, he only kicked out of one.
But oh my God, Roman Reigns live as a heel, like I will praise the Tribal Chief till the end of my days. He is acknowledged by all.
I've never seen Roman do this before, and I want to see him do this in a pay-per-view. Maybe you remember Roman did a bit where Drew was on the ground. He had been beating him up for a little while, and the crowd was kind of like muffled, right? They didn't have a clear direction, and then Roman just raised his hand and held it out horizontally with his hand open, like Emperor Palpatine shooting lightning. And he looked to one side, and then he slowly waved his hand across as if he was trying to like gauge the whole audience, right? And like as the hand passed over you, the audience went whoa, and they were like cheering, right? It was I don't know. I want to see him do that again at some point.
I think it's really cool to be so like you and I have both said the casual fans are going to love Roman Reigns. Shane was Charlotte Flair. He goes in, unanimously cheers. The pop when he came out. By the way, I think he should always do this until he loses the belts. I'm totally fine with him having 2 belts now. I don't think they need to make another championship. It would be cool if they did, but it's probably just going to be more of the same design.
Yeah.
He came out with the Universal title over his shoulder, and he wore the WWE title, and he looked so badass.
And not only that, but they played his music for a
solid minute before he even came out.
Yeah, they played his music for a minute, and we're just sitting there waiting, and then after a minute, he finally walks out, and the pop was huge, and he's wearing the belts like that. Looked awesome.
Yeah, and so the crazy thing was like, so there wasn't like an actual match card that they had posted for what the matches were going to be. So every single match was a complete surprise to us.
Yeah.
Like when Seth Rollins came out, we're like, oh, who's he gonna fight? And then Cody's music hit, and everybody went wild. And then he said, the following is for the WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship. And then we're like, who's it gonna be against? And then you hear the shing shing, and then Drew came out, huge pop.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Roman Reigns as a heel live, it was amazing to see how he was able to work the crowd that was unanimously for him. Nobody really cheered for Drew that much.
Until he
beat the shit out of Drew.
It's like I was telling you, right? Towards the end of this match, I was a kid again. I didn't give a shit about who's the heel, who's the babyface. All that I cared about was
like I wanted Drew McIntyre to win the title. That's all that I cared about.
The only thing that mattered to me in my mind was, boo, you're putting on the guillotine. Fight out of it, Drew. Fight out. And the people behind me were going, yeah, Drew, kick it.
That's why, like, I think
I can't do the high voice.
I think that's legitimately a perfect hold for him now. Like, it's the perfect one. It's like, oh, I can't beat you with my spear. I can't beat you with a Superman punch. All right, I'm just gonna choke you out.
I think it's also the fact that, like, because, like, sleeper holds exist, but, like, that's a UFC thing, you know? Dragon sleepers, that's like there's a level of, like, expertise that comes into other sleepers, but with the guillotine, you're just wrapping your arm around him, and that's
I don't know what it was, because I never got this vibe from watching one of his televised matches, because he wins with the guillotine all the time. I just never got the... Seeing it live, you can see the entire ring at all times, so... Like, his little interaction, like, he was tired and winning. He was, like, shaking his head. He was like, what the fuck am I going to do? And they just, like, he's like, F you. He just jumped on, grabbed him in the guillotine, and everybody started to boo. And it was so cool to see.
He didn't win with the guillotine, by the way.
He won with a spear.
Yeah, he locked in 3 guillotines. They failed, and then Drew went for a Claymore missed rebound spear, and then that was how it ended. But,
yeah,
Roman went from everybody in the arena loved him to fucking I need to get Drew over, and he got Drew over, and then after the match ended, right back into the baby face that we love.
Yeah. So this is gonna conclude us talking about the.
Wait, I wanted to talk about because I'll link this video in the description for this episode of the podcast. After the show ended, Roman sent the audience home, and he gave a really cool speech where, if I remember right, he said, "Yo, I don't even have to ask if y'all had a good time. Like, it's fucking obvious." He didn't say fucking. Yeah. Like, it's obvious just from hearing y'all, and the crowd cheered. And he's like, "Yo, as the face of this company, I can't thank you guys enough for what you did tonight, right? Because it's like I always say, if you guys bring the energy, then I'll bring the fight, right?" And I wonder, it's like, is that the reason why they went so hard on the pay-per-view and gave us as long of matches as they did? It's because the crowd there in Syracuse was so energetic and loud for them that, like, they felt obligated to go out of their way to put on longer matches.
It was an honor and a privilege to be there. And that sounds very professional and militaristic for me to say that, but it really was. Like, it was...
Yeah. The vibe that Roman gave off during that speech was very genuine, very, very thank you, because without that energy, this is nothing.
I will forever... look for WWE's touring schedule and try and go to as many house shows as I can. This was the most fun I've ever had watching wrestling.
This is one of the most fun things I've ever done, probably.
Yeah, I will.
Please watch that video. I'll link it in the description. It was really cool seeing Roman get down to earth like that, and he thanked the crowd on behalf of the wrestlers, and then he sent us home with Happy Easter, and that was really cool.
Yeah. In conclusion, I would say, like, go to WWE house shows. Whenever you can, go to WWE house shows. If you don't know that much about wrestling, go to a WWE house show. If you're just trying to get into wrestling, go to a WWE house show. If you hate WWE because the product on television isn't that good, go to a house show. It'll blow your mind. The production value is incredible. They actually try, and it is so satisfying. The show, like, it started, so we were thinking, oh, it's going to be like an hour, 2-hour long thing. We left it close to midnight.
We were in there for 5 hours.
Yeah.
And it felt like 2.
And it was awesome. I will never criticize a crowd for not being into a match, because I feel like people are into the matches. They're just so tired from screaming.
Yeah, the Raw after Mania crowd, they were. Well, I mean, to be fair,
they were dead because they had 2 nights of WrestleMania.
It wasn't even that they were dead, because, like, they were booing Bianca and they were heckling everybody.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that with some of my hot takes here in a minute, but. In conclusion, I would recommend going to a WWE house show to anybody. I can't wait to go to some indie shows, because I feel like it's a similar vibe. It's not televised. They're strictly performing for the audience there.
Yeah.
It's an in the moment type of experience, and I loved every second of it, and I can't wait to go to another one.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna transition
I don't have any hot takes.
He doesn't. No, you're strictly going to react to this. I have compiled a list of 10 hot takes on professional wrestling.
Okay.
Some of them are a little controversial. Some of them are just not. So I don't know which order. If I'll go 1 through 10 or 10 to 1.
Just go in the order that you wrote it down.
Okay, I'll go. So my first hot take. Pro wrestling is better with metal music. Here's why.
Okay.
You like the song that was the WrestleMania theme song this year.
It was a weekend song.
It was a weekend song.
Yes.
I can get by and say, okay, it's the biggest party of the year. It's the biggest show of the year. They need the most general fan base they can get. Playing like a Slipknot or Kill Switch Engage song probably wouldn't attract a very wide audience. But the NXT 1.0 pretty much exclusively used metal music, and it felt right. If you go back to the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era, they used new metal music. They used Ozzy Osbourne for one of the shows. Like, they used just the general sound. Even the opening song for each show was a metal song.
Yeah.
And it just felt like wrestling. It felt like our thing. Because I feel like most people who were like super into wrestling are like totally okay listening to metal music and will fit right into like Warped Tour. I just get that vibe from most of us. You could tell instantly if you watched NXT 1.0 and then they switched to NXT 2.0, it was a genuinely off-putting thing, where it's just like it's some rap song that nobody really cares about. And they had Poppy and Slipknot and all those bands do the previous soundtracks for NXT. So that's my first hot take. What do you think about that?
So, I'm not going to give my take on that because I'm not the biggest fan of metal music. I'm not the biggest fanboy of any music genre. I'm a cherry picker. I will cherry pick. Oh, I like this song. I like this song from this genre. I will never say that. Well, like obviously I like the genre that I like the most is electronic. I like my vaporwave. I like synth shit. That's what I like the most of. But like that's a really niche genre in terms of like mainstream music. I'm a cherry picker, and I understand that you're a metalhead, right?
Yeah.
So if you think that it sounds better with metal music, that's
I think it just fits, like the genre of music fits the genre of what we're watching on television.
It depends on the feud, I'd say, but generally speaking, yeah, it like if you want to get the audience hyped for like a big
For
fight,
a fight, you play music that's aggressive and gets you in a fighting mood.
yeah.
Like so like when you dance to rap music, it's like a lot of grinding and twerking and stuff like that. When you dance to metal music, you're literally like thrashing and trying to punch people.
But when I think back to the best ever WWE promo of all time, Shawn Michaels and then The Undertaker, that wasn't metal. It was a very slow, somber, creepy song because
I think the best Undertaker promos they use like, do you not
remember that?
You know the song "Hurt" by Johnny Cash?
I think so.
Like he covered it. It's like a slow Western themed type of song. Like I think that type of music fits the Undertaker better because he's like a gunslinger essentially.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I wouldn't say that metal fits everything better, right?
I'm talking like just the show in general, like the
for like a theme song. Yeah,
yeah,
sure. I would at least agree on that much. I don't like that WWE
promos are different.
I don't like that they've adopted rap as their new theme song. Shit, I don't like that. But then again, I don't like rap that much.
Yeah.
So, no offense to DJ Chocolate.
So we don't know if it was rap. It could have been slam rap or grindcore or whatever. I don't know.
What if it was like the best music we've ever heard?
And we just threw it away.
Oh, sorry, he should maybe package his CDs and not sell a fame that looks sketchy as fuck.
Yeah. So my second hot take is that wrestling fans suck, but are also awesome.
Okay.
All right. So the awesome wrestling fans would be Seth Rollins' girl and the little kid in front of us.
Yeah.
Those people are awesome. But
The
the vast majority of wrestling fans just absolutely suck. Because they're toxic. Like, the idea that anybody would boo Bianca Belair still to this day baffles me.
You're talking about the kind of people who called Cody Rhodes a traitor and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess when I say wrestling fans, I mostly mean the AEW fans. And I hate to single out the AEW fans like that, because you and I are both fans of AEW's product. But we're not like the people on like. I don't like talking about other people like this, but I mean, if we're just using examples, like JD to me he seems like he's only negative to get views. Like when something controversial happens on a wrestling show, everybody turns into JD to see what he's gonna say because he's gonna say something crazy and like go on a rant.
Well, it's a character, right?
But
like those.
A lot of wrestling fans have kind of adopted that kind of a mindset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, who knows? This Santam Singh, is that his name? The big tall dude that just joined AEW? Satnam Singh?
I don't know.
He literally just got in a ring and did one move, and now the entire internet wrestling community hates this man and is like probably giving him death threats and stuff like that.
I really hope they're not doing that.
Just because he joined a wrestling promotion that's not like a sports entertainment promotion. I'm pretty sure like other people have got, there's been a lot of people that got death threats.
I think the word that you're looking for is that wrestling fans are the most wrestling fans can be the most toxic fan base.
I don't know if they're the most toxic. I think Star Wars fans are probably more toxic than wrestling fans.
You're clearly not a gamer because I know some gaming fan bases that are the absolute scum of the earth.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know, so.
Yeah, I don't know, but I guess this is my first hot take.
Hot take.
Sports entertainment doesn't suck.
Okay.
So the idea that we've kind of been molded to believe by the underground wrestling promotions and AEW and the internet wrestling community is that sports entertainment sucks, pro wrestling's awesome. I wouldn't say that they're one and the same. I would say pro wrestling is the more sports-based program. Sports entertainment is like the Harlem Globetrotters. It's not legit. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though WWE has pro wrestling on their program, they're a sports entertainment company because they don't consider themselves as like they don't really consider AEW competition. They consider Disney competition. They're in a different business. In that aspect though, sports entertainment doesn't suck. I.e., the Attitude Era was not pro wrestling. That's another one of my hot takes later on. So I won't get too into that.
You can just loop him in right now.
So one of my other hot takes was the Attitude Era wasn't that good wrestling wise.
Yeah.
So these awesome matches that we remember, like Undertaker versus Mankind, like they're just throwing each other off the Hell in a Cell. That's sports entertainment. That's not wrestling. The Rock versus Steve Austin. They had good matches, but every single week to week, like if you watch the Attitude Era through today's eyes, the reason it was cool was because it was TV-14. They said edgy stuff, and there were naked girls all the time. Steve Austin jumping in a wrestling ring and spraying people down with beer.
Yeah, it's
like that's sports entertainment. That's not pro wrestling.
Yeah, like you name Attitude Era, and the first thoughts that come to my mind are Triple H riding the tank to WCW's doors, the beer bath with fucking Steve Austin, Mankind, and I think of The Rock and all of his promos.
Mr. Sacco, yeah.
And that's all sports entertainment.
Yeah, and so like I don't think sports entertainment sucks. I just think like if you look at the work rate back then compared to the work rate the generation before it with Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. And like Mr. Perfect, like those were the pro wrestlers, and then as soon as Bret left the company, that's when it turned into sports entertainment because that's when they made the graphic that said, "We're not trying to insult your intelligence. We're not trying to have good guys versus bad guys all the time." And so like I don't think sports entertainment's bad. The best recent sports entertainment I would say was Night 2 of WrestleMania.
Knoxville and
Zayn. The Pat McAfee match was sports entertainment.
Arguably the Kevin Owens match was
sports the Kevin Owens match was sports entertainment. Like it was awesome. And it honestly worked really well for Steve Austin too because he was a work rate wrestler and then after he broke his neck he couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah, I like both. I don't if I just saw pro wrestling all the time, I would get bored because I know that it's not real, and while it's cool to see it done as real sometimes.
Well, I would argue that what we saw last night was exclusively pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And I didn't get bored once.
Well, there was no promos. except for one with Charlotte. And if you have that every night, then there's no story. Therefore, there's no.
There also weren't any gimmick matches, so there's
no
that.
story. Therefore, it was a nice break from what WWE usually does. But if they do that all the time, there's no story. No story. Me as a human, I need a story. I need a hero to follow to get invested. Right? You need a mix of both.
Yeah.
I think that you need to find a middle ground with sports entertainment and pro wrestling. The fucking AEW fans who say that sports entertainment's stupid and the WWE fans who say that pro wrestling's stupid, I don't believe
they're both idiots because both companies do both.
Wouldn't say that. I would just say that I don't believe in that mindset. I believe that you need both of them. There's a time and place for both of them. Sports entertainment is pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is sports entertainment. Whether or not you want to be called a wrestler or a superstar, that's a debate for a whole other day. But I think that both of them have their place.
And that whole thing was just Vince McMahon. He can't really market the term wrestler, but he can market the term WWE superstar. It makes you sound like a bigger deal.
Well, they can do more as a superstar. As a superstar, you can do more Make-A-Wish things. You can do more charity work. You can do more acting roles than you can as a wrestler.
And what sounds bigger to you? What sounds more mainstream? Oh, he's just a WWE wrestler. Oh, he's The Miz, WWE superstar. Yeah. Like that's no brainer to me.
Yeah.
We may not like the terminology or the nomenclature of a lot of these things, but
nomenclature. That's a big word.
That is a big word.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that.
I use the term nomenclature all the time.
What does that even mean?
Like what things are called.
I'm gonna use that from now on.
So like the nomenclature of a saw is an M249.
It's like,
you know what I mean?
I'm gonna start using that word.
Nomenclature of a striker-mounted mortar system is the RMS6 Lemur. That's the nomenclature.
You know what my favorite word is? It's cavalcade. You know what that is?
What is that?
A cavalcade. It's a joyous parade
of cattle.
No, it's just the word cavalcade. Like
cavalcade. Oh, yeah. I thought you said cavalcade.
No, cavalcade.
Like it's like a parade of cows and steers just walking around.
No, cavalcade. It's my favorite word. Anyways, next.
So my fourth hot take, you will 100% agree with.
Okay.
Deathmatch wrestling is bad for the industry.
I disagree. No, I just wanted to fuck with you. Yeah, I mean, I remember like one of my earliest wrestling memories with you is you showing me the
Nick Gage,
the fucking match. Like Matt Cardona light tube blood match, and the whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, dude, this is fucking sick. Like I hate this shit. It's stupid. Like,
so I think it can work when a feud demands it. If it's a blood feud.
Yeah.
So Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker was the perfect opportunity to do the lights out dark match, like the death match. But the first time that Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley have a match, it's a death match. Like, that's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, you and I say all the time that moves are just paint with which you can paint a piece of art, that piece of art being a wrestling match.
We've adapted the famous George Lucas quote.
But the same thing goes for blood. Blood is just another piece of paint that you can use to paint a match, right? So like,
here's why. Go ahead.
So like, if you're trying to craft a story, like, what's the fucking point in starting it off with light tubes and barbed wire and a bloody mess? Like, it's not enhancing the story, right? Because this is I'm talking about the Matt Cardona match. This is a fucking indie match with 100 people there, like.
And then you got people in the crowd saying, "Slit his throat, fucking kill him, Gage." Like, I don't want to be around those types of people.
No, I'd be fucking scared,
yeah.
dude. And oh, he's a normie. It's like, okay, I'm proud to be a normie. Sorry that I don't like seeing people shove broken light tubes in their face, guys. Oh, I guess that makes me a normie. That I don't like seeing mutilation.
I'll say this. Like, if Nick Gage is very adamant, he's like, to me, deathmatch wrestling is an art, and this is my art, and full send it, man. Good on you. Like, he died doing it. He actually died, and they brought him back from the dead. There's an episode of Dark Side of the Ring I think you should totally watch with me later on. Mm-hmm. It is hilarious. But to me, it takes zero talent. All it takes is guts and stupidity and a lot of drugs.
Oh, speaking of death matches, did they have the Adam Page Adam Cole match yet?
Yeah, it was really good.
I didn't watch it.
It was on Rampage.
I know, I didn't watch it. I forgot.
We'll watch it back later.
All right.
To me, like, if the stipulation needs it, it needs it. I love Mick Foley. I have all of his books. I've watched all of his documentaries.
I can confirm I'm looking at his bookshelf right now.
I am one of the biggest Mick Foley fans ever. But Jon Moxley made a very interesting point when he was trying to do a program with Mick Foley.
And we talked about it last episode. It's in the Moxley book.
Yeah, it's in the Moxley book where he basically said you're responsible for an entire generation of wrestlers maiming themselves and doing all this stuff, including me. Because like when you think of like, oh, who's the modern day mainstream hardcore guy? It's Moxley, even though he's one of the best workers in the world, bar none. I think it's killing the business, and it's not necessarily something that should be featured on television. To me, if you take your typical, I use this analogy all the time, the Zack Snyder analogy. It's like if you take someone who's like super into deathmatch wrestling and that's like the only shit that they watch, you could probably hand them an issue, the compendium of The Watchmen, and they would read it, and then they would like it, and then you tell them to like give it to one of their friends, and they'd be like, "Oh, dude, yeah, you should read this awesome comic. It's called The Watchmen. It's not like all those other comics, man. This one has sex in it. Like you would like it. It's cool. It's not the stupid Superman comics. Like this is gritty and real and has sex in it. Like that to me is just like that's like the stereotypical deathmatch fan.
I'm not very well versed on death matches, probably because I don't like watching them. Right. Yeah. So the only take that I can give on
I can watch like an Extreme Rules match, a Hell in a Cell match with blood and gore and stuff. Like I can't watch a 10,000 light tubes match. Who wants to watch that shit?
It's like a.
That's an actual stipulation for a match.
It's like I told you.
Exploding barbed wire death match.
Blood is a means of telling a story, right? If it makes sense for the story, if I'm watching two men beat each other up and 30 minutes in there's finally blood because they're starting to really hurt each other. If it's a blood feud, if it makes sense for there to be some blood, that's fine. But the minute that and this even goes for AEW too, because I'm not I'd say that thumbtacks are like my limit. I
would do thumbtacks.
I don't see a point, right? It's just like Jim Cornette said, right? Like why are you wasting your time on a regular old episode of your show, blading yourself, maiming yourself, which no one's gonna fucking remember.
Tenderizing your forehead with a fork before you go out.
Yeah, like no one's gonna like remember this, and you're doing it just for like a regular pay. It's stupid.
Well, my final thing on deathmatch wrestling is I think everybody knows wrestling is fake. I think deathmatch wrestling is the fakest wrestling, even though it's arguably the most real wrestling.
I'm gonna start using that fucking 10,000 light tubes match because that is the stupidest sounding thing.
So it's a match where you get in the ring, and then the entire way around the ring, they line up 10,000 light tubes, and at the end of the match, there are no more light tubes.
Yeah.
And it is horrifying to watch.
I bet.
Yeah, and like GCW, like Nick Gage matches, these tables are for pussies. He only uses panes of glass and chairs. It hurts to laugh. I like Nick Gage. I think Nick Gage is a pretty genuine guy. I think he just really loves his deathmatch wrestling. Yeah. Like, man, if you're into that, that's cool. Yeah, but to me,
I'm not saying anything against Nick Gage. It's just Nick Gage. If you're listening, no offense, I'm just not a fan of watching dudes shove light tubes in their foreheads.
And the crazy thing is, like, he grew up loving Japanese work rate wrestling, and he wanted to do that, but he just wasn't athletic enough, so he started doing deathmatch wrestling.
Yeah.
But to me, deathmatch wrestling is faker than like the fake shit.
It doesn't take any talent.
It doesn't take any talent. It's like you. So
you could give anybody a fucking light tube and tell them to smack it over another dude's head.
So you have two dudes in a regular wrestling match where one dude takes a clothesline or a spear and he lays on the ground and he's selling it. And then it's like, okay, yeah, but you expect me to believe that a guy can like go through a table covered in barbed wire that's on fire, get up, take 3 chair shots to the head, and then get smacked around by a whole bunch of light tubes, and then go through a pane of glass, and then he can get up and still win the match. Like it is so fake, and it's.
I would take 1 chair shot and be out if it was a real fight.
Yeah, no, it's stupid. But anyway, that's we could do an entire episode on deathmatch wrestling and why it's stupid. But that's just one of my hot takes.
Yeah.
My number 5 hot take. This one kind of may be a little controversial. Wrestling needs heels and baby faces. Otherwise, it just doesn't really work.
Yeah.
There are very, very few examples where I can say, okay, this match didn't need a baby face or a heel. Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn, they were both baby faces. Yeah. They were both getting cheered, but Nakamura worked the heel part of the match. Sami Zayn was the guy that got beat up and got the comeback.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The structure of wrestling, to the common fan's eye, like, yeah, they could probably sit here and say, oh yeah, no, face versus face or heel versus heel, you could do it all the time and like people would be fine with it. But someone always has to work the face part of the match. Someone always has to work the heel part of the match. Otherwise, the dynamic of the story doesn't work. Because if wrestling is a story, how are you, like, if you have two heels wrestling each other, A, the fans should be booing both of them. So that doesn't work. And B, it's not going to be believable because you're just going to have one guy beat the shit out of the other guy, and then he just stops selling and gets up and beats the shit out of the other guy.
Yeah.
Also, I think wrestling is way more entertaining with baby faces and heels.
I mean, that was proven last night.
That was proven last night.
Fucking cheering for Drew McIntyre, and I didn't want him to win at all. But in that moment, I wanted him to win.
That being said,
okay,
my hot take number 6. This one's definitely controversial. The Miz and Logan Paul are the only real heels in wrestling.
Like all of wrestling?
Yes.
Because they're people that you genuinely hate. I mean,
who are your favorite heels
of all time?
Like in wrestling today?
Today.
Yeah.
I mean MJF, but here's the thing. That's a really subjective thing because to me, I know that it's fake. I love MJF for his work. So I'll boo him if I'm there live. I'll boo him. I'll acknowledge that he's a piece of shit, but I'll still love him, right? But to that kid that we saw last night and to that girl, MJF is the biggest piece of shit human being on planet Earth.
Oh my God, yeah.
And they hate him. So you ask me who's the biggest heel, I don't like I can give you names, but I don't really hate any of them. So are they even really a heel to me?
Here's why I say this. For a guy who loves heel wrestlers, I love MJF.
Yeah.
MJF to me, he can go out of his way to say really controversial things and bury the universe, and I'm still gonna like him. His wrestling is too good for him to be booed.
Yeah.
He's too good in the ring to be a heel. The Miz isn't. And that's why he's so easy to boo. That's why everybody hates him. It's the same thing with Baron Corbin a little bit, but everybody likes I think Baron Corbin at this point is just just go away. Nobody likes you.
Well, yeah, with his gimmick.
Yeah. But Logan Paul brought that mainstream hatred, and it worked for him. And he was the perfect heel in that wrestling match at WrestleMania. And The Miz, like I said, you can love his promos, you can love his in-ring work, but he's the guy who you believe he has to cheat to win matches because he's not that good.
No.
And when you have guys like Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson coming on in interviews saying no, I don't like The Miz. I don't like him at all, but I respect him. And you totally buy it, you totally believe it because it's a shoot interview. I'm like, yeah, that's why it's easy to boo him. Yeah. He's he's just not a likable person, but he's that guy that WWE sends to all of the media because he's a good face for the company.
Oh yeah, he's an amazing.
And he's a good person.
He's an amazing person.
He's an awesome guy, but he is so good at his job that he makes me boo him.
There's a really famous video out there there's an autograph signing and they have all of the superstars lined up and there's a little girl going to go see some face. It might have been Kofi, right? And the girl's hiding behind the dad because the Miz is there, and the Miz is staying in character, and he's like, "What? What are you afraid of?" And then the dad is talking on her behalf, and he's like, she doesn't like you, and he's like, "What? She doesn't like me? Why don't you like me? Don't you know that I'm the biggest superstar in this entire?" And he's staying in character the entire time.
Yeah. See, I like that MJF stays in character the entire time, but he stays in character so much that it's we know he's in character.
It's comical.
That is comical. A kid with cerebral palsy came up and asked him for an autograph, and he just flipped him off and called him a retard. A kid in a wheelchair came up, and he's like, "Oh, look at this, look at this!" And he stands up. He's like, "How about that?"
It's comical.
And but he still signs the autograph. He's not.
Yeah, I know.
That's why, he fully acknowledges, I hate it when people call me a real heel. He's like,
you know that it's a job, right?
It's a job. He said it in multiple interviews. He just stays in character because he's old school. He stays in character and he gets heat. That's what he does. He's not a real heel. He's really good at his job. But anyway, that's my hot take on that.
Yeah, I would say that I don't hate any wrestler.
Yeah.
Unless they hurt somebody.
I think you're gonna disagree with this.
I already disagree with
my
that.
7th hot take: supernatural wrestlers don't work anymore.
So here's the thing. I'm not going to say that they can't work anymore, but right now they don't work because they're not being utilized properly. But they could work if done right. Anything could work if done right, so I'm not gonna say that they just don't work anymore. As of right now, they're not.
You're the biggest Bray Wyatt fan I've ever met in my entire life. What's better, Bray Wyatt or the Fiend?
I mean,
if both of them were booked perfectly,
the Fiend.
You think the Fiend's better? Because I think cult leader Bray Wyatt's way better.
No, Bray Wyatt, yeah.
Better promos, better in ring.
Yeah.
He's not as fragile as here's why I think supernatural wrestlers don't work anymore. It worked when The Undertaker debuted because that was when wrestling was real. It worked with Kane because that was when wrestling was real. Yeah. Those were the last two that people were just like, yes, okay. Bray Wyatt comes out. He's not necessarily a supernatural wrestler. He's just like a cult leader in a swamp that comes out to the ring when the lights turn off.
Yeah.
Right, that's believable. As soon as he became the Fiend, that persona became so fragile that the second he lost, you and I would both say, oh, losing to Seth Rollins is not, like Seth Rollins is like one of the best wrestlers in the entire world. Like losing to him isn't a big deal.
Yeah.
But the second he lost to Seth Rollins, the character was done. Because that character cannot lose. Because he's a horror character. He's a horror movie monster. That's the whole gimmick. The second that he is shown to be weak or that you put the belt on him, the second you put the company's world title on him, then he has to automatically lose at some point.
Yeah.
They could have gone about it differently and had like Bray Wyatt, like he wrestles sometimes as Bray Wyatt, sometimes as the Fiend. That could have worked.
They did that.
The Alexa Bliss persona does not work.
No.
Everybody hates it. So that's why I think supernatural wrestlers don't work. And all of those wrestlers that people think are supernatural wrestlers, like Sting, he's not a supernatural wrestler. Darby Allin, no.
The
Demon, he's not a supernatural wrestler. Even though they kind of...
He flopped around.
He flopped around.
He flopped around, and then Pat McAfee said, "Oh my gosh, it's the Demon's heart."
Yeah, I'd say the only true supernatural wrestlers that we've ever had were Undertaker, Kane, and The Fiend. Yeah. And Alexa Bliss. And that's pretty much it. Like, I wouldn't even say the Boogeyman is a supernatural character.
I think he was. He made worms appear in the ring.
No, he just ate worms.
Oh, well, good for him. Good.
Okay, maybe he was actually supposed to be the Boogeyman. We'll add the Boogeyman onto that, too.
Hopefully he had a good payday for eating those worms.
But I just don't think they work anymore. I don't think you can debut...
I will meet you in the middle where I will say that right now it doesn't work because people don't know how to write it or book it. But I think that it could work again.
I don't think you could debut The Undertaker exactly the same way as the same exact character today, and it would work. I don't think you could. I think the reason The Undertaker is so beloved is because he debuted in the 90s, and people loved him since then and carried it on. Same with Kane.
Maybe.
I don't think you could debut anything like that today and it would work. Time will tell. We'll see how this Edge faction goes, if that's going to be supernatural.
We'll see if the House of Black ever gets a fucking storyline. I'm the biggest House of Black fan, and yet I'm the biggest House of Black hater because they're not doing anything to warrant me liking them right now, and they're making me feel guilty that I like them because they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
They just lose matches, and then they have edgy music.
All right, so my eighth, this is my second to last since I already did the Attitude Era wasn't good one.
Yeah.
Attitude Era wasn't good wrestling-wise, sorry. So, Walter/Gunther is the only special attraction left in wrestling.
Okay.
Think about the days of the carnival where they would have like the big, like the ginormous baby or whatever that people would come to see. Like it was the special attraction. I would say, yeah, Roman Reigns is a draw. Drew McIntyre is a draw. Walter is a special attraction. He's the 80s special attraction, and the only one left in wrestling. What do you think of that?
I mean, Omos around.
Yeah, but Omos is terrible, and everybody hates him.
He's still tall, though.
He's just a tall guy. You look at Walter. Walter is literally the guy that you can picture being the Andre the Giant. Like, I think that's the closest equivalent. Great worker, larger-than-life personality, the foreigner.
Yeah.
And, like, when he's in the ring, it doesn't matter. Whenever, like, when he's in the ring, it's the main event. That's why you can put him anywhere on the card. That's the genius part. Plus, he's literally a perfect wrestler.
Yeah, I guess. It's kind of hard to dispute that.
When you think of special attractions in wrestling, you think of Andre the Giant. I wouldn't even say Hulk Hogan. He was just the biggest draw. Like people didn't really come out of the woodworks to see Hulk Hogan. They came out to see Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
They just loved Hulk Hogan because he was the superhero.
He was the blonde American hero. Yep.
Yeah.
The 80s, man.
And then my last one, this is probably the most controversial one. Wrestling finishers are stupid and not protected.
Like all the time or like just right now?
The idea of a finisher in wrestling is stupid.
I disagree with that heavily. I think that's a stupid statement.
Why?
Well, because it's an idea. A finishing move, it's a signature of a character, right?
You watch the Al Snow video, same as me.
Yeah.
The idea of a finisher is every single time you hit that move, the match is over.
Yeah, so as long as you do that, then why is it stupid?
But they're not protected.
But if they were...
If it's a protect... Let me rephrase it.
Yeah, that's why, the way you made that sound is if...
No, I actually wrote it down like that. I said wrestling finishers are stupid and not protected. Yeah. If they were protected...
And yes.
Like, the End of Days is great. I love it, because every time it hits it... But...
That's what I'm saying.
They're not protected anymore. Like, did you and I think that, Roman hits the spear, Drew McIntyre's done for it? No.
No.
That's why we both thought the match was going to end with the guillotine. But then it didn't. Because pretty much every single time he's put the guillotine in, the match has been over because the guy passes out.
Yeah, like, the idea... Yeah, like, I don't believe at all that finishers aren't important. Finishers are important. The finishing move is wrestling's exclamation point.
The psychology of how a finishing move doesn't work anymore.
A finishing move is the exclamation point that you fucking put at the end of your wrestling story, right? If you're writing it down, right? It is the story ender. It's over. Finishing move, exclamation point. He hit his ultimate move. If it's protected, right? Now, like you said, it's not usually protected, and when that happens, yeah, it can be stupid, right? I wish that more moves were protected.
So here's why I think it's stupid. We both love Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
My favorite Kenny Omega match
is the Bryan one.
My favorite Kenny Omega match of all time is the one that makes the most sense because like he's got like little to no ring psychology. He's just an amazing athlete, and we love Kenny Omega because he's a good person. We love him. We love to watch him work.
He's a fucking nerd. I like him.
Yeah. My favorite Kenny Omega match was like just a tournament match that he had to get into a championship contenders match. And it was when he first debuted, like the cleaner entrance with the girls with the brooms.
Yeah. And
he comes to the ring and he has a match against Sonny Kiss. Bell rings, shakes his hand, V-trigger, one-winged angel, match is over. That's my favorite Kenny Omega match. Because that is the only way that a wrestling match should ever be looked at.
If you're not trying to go for your
as soon as the bell rings, you hit your signature move, then your finisher move, and then you win. Why are you locking up and feeling someone out at the beginning of the match? You should always work to get to the finisher.
Yeah.
And that's why I love that move. And that's why I think what I said, I don't actually think that finishers are stupid. I think the way that they're used is stupid. The idea of Finn Balor only does a coup de grace at the end of the match. It's like that saying, where did you find it? Oh, it's always in the last place that you look. Well, because after you find it, you don't have to look anymore. It's like, well, why do you do a finisher at the end of the match? Because after you do your finisher, you don't have to work anymore. I think as soon as the bell rings, you should be trying to get your finisher in. It makes a better story.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think the way that they're used now is stupid. I don't think the moves themselves are stupid. But they need to be protected more.
Yeah, like, if you're looking at wrestling as two people trying to win a match, why would Roman not be looking for a spear?
Should always be looking for the spear. And for the most part,
and it doesn't
does.
And it doesn't have to hit all the time, right? But, I want to see more matches in which a character clearly goes for his finishing move early on, and then it doesn't hit because the guy's still rested and he catches it.
Well, that's why I like Randy Orton matches so much, because he's always trying to hit an RKO.
Yeah, you can always snap into it.
Yeah.
That's why I like Sheamus, because he can always do a bro kick whenever he wants. He doesn't do it as much anymore, but like his match against Bryan.
Yeah. So that is why I think Shayna Baszler is the greatest women's wrestler of all time, because every single time that she wrestles someone, she always gets their back and gets them in the coquina clutch.
She always
does. Okay, and then when she doesn't get that, she gets pissed off, so she starts bullying people around.
You're right.
And then she snaps their arm.
Now that you mention it, I've never seen a Shayna Baszler match where it's like the person's on the ground and Shayna's rallying the crowd, and then the person stands up, and then she does a sleeper. No, it's always unexpected.
Instant, yeah.
It's unexpected out of nowhere. Oh shit, she got it. I wasn't paying attention.
Shayna Baszler is the best Best women's wrestler in the entire
She
world.
always snaps into it out of nowhere, and it always surprises you. Yeah, and whenever she breaks out, like you said, she'll just break your wrist.
Yeah, and I wish, like, honestly, like, if Ronda Rousey would just train more with Shayna Baszler and get the psychology from her down.
I want them to be in a tag team. If you want to,
I don't necessarily want them to be in a tag team. I want to see them wrestle tag team matches. Yeah. I want to see them wrestle each other.
Yeah.
They would bury Shayna Baszler in that. Obviously, Ronda Rousey's the bigger star, but my God. I love you, Shayna Baszler. Please marry me. I cheered for you last night.
That's right. We got told to shut up because we were cheering for you.
But anyway, that's all of my hot takes. I guess there weren't really that hot takes. I'm a very opinionated person, and I'm gonna try and keep more of my opinions to myself about a lot of these things. But when the chance arises for me to spill my beans, I guess I will.
I will do the exact opposite because I don't give a fuck about what anybody thinks. I have my opinions, and I want them known.
When I have like really controversial opinions, I try to keep it to myself because like it doesn't really matter what I think. I don't really care. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's our podcast. You can say whatever you want, dude.
I guess. I don't know.
Don't be ashamed. What's the worst they can do? Leave a fucking comment? I don't read any of them anyways.
Oh.
I don't give a shit. This is just...
I don't think anybody's left a comment. Oh, didn't someone leave like one comment one time?
Somebody left one comment, yeah.
Up-and-coming podcasters. Yeah. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. If you've noticed the general trend of, like Aaron said at the beginning, the general trend is that we're starting to become more and more of a wrestling podcast.
It's slowly becoming a wrestling podcast, which I'm fine with.
I'm fine with it. We're just going to talk about whatever we want, whenever we want. Yeah, that's how this is going to go. We just happen to watch a lot of wrestling and have a lot to talk about with wrestling. So
yeah, I don't feel guilty about it. Because like I said, this is just you and me talking about what we like.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk more about like comics and like when Doctor Strange comes out, we're going to watch it and talk about that probably.
Yeah.
The new trailer for Thor 4 came out today.
I saw.
It looked really good.
That it did.
Excited for that. Yeah. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like what you hear. And with that being said, I've been Ben. This is Aaron.
What's up?
And we will catch you in the next episode.